Action.
All right, everybody. How you doing? It is the Cheech and Manny show, and do we have a great show today? We have Rush's Power Windows. We're going to be going song by song, analyzing the lyrics, and there's a lot of great history that I think people will learn about. And let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Manny. How are you?
Cheech, as always, man, life is good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Day away from the temple, hung out with my
Oh man.
daughter, played some
Oh,
bass. Freezing. It's cold.
dude, I know. I was gonna say like two out of those four things sound pretty cool. I don't know about the temple, but
Well, being away from it is always a good thing.
oh, you're right.
Yeah,
That's
no,
true.
I was
That's
off.
true.
Yeah,
So you regained your free will.
I got my free will and spend it with the love of my life. So, but yeah, so today we have a great show. I want to do some shout outs if I could first. You got any shout outs, man?
Honestly, shout out to anybody watching, listening. You had somebody that keeps commenting, Cheech. He put a nice comment.
On the newest one?
Recently, yeah. Let me.
Okay, yeah, I think I know who that is because they
Dude,
they messaged me today. Uh, that would be my good friend Jay.
if that's him, he left a really nice comment. He was saying that he was saying, "Wow, you guys know so you're teaching me so much about prog rock," and it was the episode on All the World's a Stage Live album,
Oh,
and
oh, that's that. Oh, that's my guitar player, Vinny. I think
oh, is
Vincenzo.
it? Oh, that's such a high compliment. So
Yeah.
shout out to him, and shout out to
Oh,
you, Cheech,
oh,
man.
shout out to Vincenzo. Vincenzo,
Uh,
man, he's one of my favorite guitar players in the world to play with. Love him.
that's him. That's a high compliment then.
Oh yeah, he's a huge Maiden and Rush fan and
Oh, I love it.
natural musician. And with that being said, a shout out to Potter's Field. We just had a great set at Pete
Nice.
Moon on Tuesday, and we got to play with the legendary Chubby Checkers music arranger Jim Wacker,
Oh,
keyboard
it's
player.
amazing.
It's amazing. He walks in the bar, we're on stage, and we see him. We're like, Jim! He jumps on stage, he gets behind the keys during the Stone song Heartbreaker. It was like magic. Amazing.
Dude, that's so rock and roll.
Oh, it was so cool. Uh, just talk about, oh, thank you, fans. 1,000 likes, views.
Yeah. Dude, 1,000 views,
More
31
out.
subscribers too. Man,
We're
I
moving.
love it.
We're moving up there, man. Yeah, like I always say, look out, Rick Beato.
Dude, and, oh, I have one more shout out to best co-host, man. You. What
Oh, oh,
this wouldn't be possible, man, if you didn't come up and I feel like we are like the professors of Rush. Like,
we are
love
the
it.
we are Rush of Rush, the Rush episode.
Yeah, I think we know more about Rush than themselves.
Genesis is funny. Somebody at the temple, a customer saw the Genesis tribute band. You know, the famous one,
Oh, yeah.
and interviewed Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel. Went to go see them, and I think Phil Collins said, "You know what? They're better than we were." You know, like,
Honestly, dude, that is so funny. Like, dude, Fat Phil Collins is saying that.
and yeah, and thank you for the shout out. I want to give my shout out right back at you because this is amazing what we're doing. I love it. Thank you for making this happen, man. Amazing and all your knowledge. Um, so up and coming shows, we just released Signals.
Yep.
So we're watching that. We just recorded Grace Under Pressure, which will be,
Yeah. So the next episode is our top five. Well, the episode with your brother-in-law,
yeah,
uh, Rob, which that's coming out, and then Grace Under Pressure, and
yeah.
then this one. So stay tuned for that.
And then we have some other ones in the works. One on punk rock,
It's coming up.
Led Zeppelin with the great Joe Silkman,
Hmm.
and the Legends with Leslie and Devante
Yep.
in the Temple. And a shout out to Devante because I heard his show went really good the other.
Really awesome.
Yeah, I
I
heard.
think I think he's an example of a modern day up and coming I guess I would call him a musician in a way, right? DJ
Oh,
sampling, right?
DJ,
Really good stuff he's doing.
he's creating music, and
Pretty
I
awesome.
I'm really proud of Devontae.
Hmm.
So, quick shout out to my boy Jay, my old guitar player, who sent me a thing on Facebook today saying he loves the podcast and
Oh,
he's
that's
looking
awesome.
top 10. And he said Caressa Steel 2112 would be his number one, you know. And
Wait, this might be a silly question. Did we do? I gotta check back, but did we do an episode on Crest of Steel?
we did
We did, dude. We're probably one of the few podcasters that ever done an episode on that.
on the
Okay.
previous. It wasn't Caressa Steel. It was like the first three Rush albums, kind of like what
Oh,
we're gonna do
oh,
with
oh, we lumped it. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
lump the first three Zeppelin albums together like that. I did.
Right, right.
But Jay, he loves the show. He's a huge Rush fan. And if you go on Facebook and you look up Viking Superstar, you can see me, Jay, and Robbie Offerman, the People's drummer, doing
Awesome.
Passage to Bangkok. So we
Oh,
did some Rush.
wait, is that on YouTube? Maybe you can send me the link and I'll link it below.
I don't think it's on YouTube. If you just go to
Okay,
Viking Superstar on Facebook and you
okay.
scroll down, there's a ton of videos. It would be Passage to Bangkok, us doing that,
Ooh,
which is
awesome.
such a hard song to play. And just really quick, you know, there's these two guys who are doing podcasts from England, and you send them to me, and it was on Power Windows. It was 5 minutes, and I'm not gonna. I am not here
Yeah.
to bash.
Don't name them.
I won't name them, but I don't even know their names. Let's call them Beavis and Butthead. you know, and uh,
Dude, they're yeah, Beavis and Butthead are like Wayne's World. Like,
Wayne's World. So basically, they had a couple of really valid points that were good, you know. But I think if you're going to do a podcast on Rush
no,
or Genesis, don't trash it or make it look bad because you're talking about genius.
I know.
You know, you're talking about genius albums. If you don't like Power Windows, okay, fine, but you got to give it the respect because it is
Hmm.
genius
Yeah,
for new technology. That's what they didn't get. It's the '80s. It's new technology. That's how it's going to sound.
I know.
People,
Kind of unfair.
yeah, yeah, and of course, being a musician, you want to grow and you want to grow with technology. You want that new sound, and
Yeah,
that and
yeah,
about they change. If Rush just stayed in the '70s, they would have never got out of there. There's a lot of bands
no,
that,
no,
you know, like a lot of
no.
bands grew, like Journey grew,
Yep.
Journey changed with the times, Genesis,
Yes.
yes, but some of them stayed stuck in the '70s. Some of these bands,
Yeah.
like Ed Nugent, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, he didn't make it. No.
He didn't get. Oh, damn Yankees, he did. Take that back, but
Oh,
yeah,
well, right.
that was years later, though.
Was that in the 90s? I think, or
That
like late
was
80s?
that was in the '90s, early '90s.
Hmm.
Yeah, they keep coming up.
No.
All right, so we'll talk about power windows, and not the power windows in your car. But as an idiot.
You have to explain that because what do you mean by that? For our viewers that might not know what you're talking about.
So if you have a car back in the day, the cool thing was it didn't have the roll up. Remember rolling up your windows? Do you remember that's something in your era?
My dad's old Dodge Caravan.
Okay.
Had to roll up the
Yeah.
windows.
So in like I don't know the early '80s, they're like we have power windows. That's a part of the car. Wow, you hit a button and the window goes down. Oh my goodness, we don't have to work at it anymore. Just like the remote control, which is going to show up in this episode. The remote control is a big part of this episode and the artwork. So we'll talk about the songs: Big
Yeah.
Money, Grand Design, Manhattan Project, which is going to be it's going to be a good one. Get ready for that, folks. Marathon, which I learned something that I never knew. Territories, Middletown Dreams, Emotion Detector, and Mystic Rhythms.
Hmm.
So before we dive into it, we got to talk about 1985.
Yes, sir.
So you were not on the planet. I still,
No, I was still not on the planet.
I was on the planet, and I seen Rush on this tour, And this was a phenomenal tour. It blew me away. And I remember my uncle, God rest his soul, my uncle Anthony, love him so much. He just passed away. He took me to this concert. My two best friends, Danny Brown and Scott Harper. And I remember it like yesterday. A band called Marillion. If you don't know Marillion, they're another proggy rock band from England. They opened up, and I realized I seen Rush on every single tour up from Test for Echo up till 1997. So I seen Rush a lot from 80 for about a decade. I saw Rush for 10 years. Um, so that was my experience in 1985 seeing Rush. Great concert. So what
So
was
this
on
what wait, and this was the Power Windows
this is
tour.
Power Windows tour? I
And that's interesting because it wasn't even and like it's not to say that it's like less epic or more epic than like let's say the Signals tour or
yeah.
Moving Pictures tour, but yeah, I think they're I imagine when you saw them at their peak.
Oh yeah, I saw Grace
Right.
Under Pressure, and I was still not. I was like just starting the bass, so it didn't make a lot of sense yet. It was just in awe of Getty, but now this is 1985. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, and this is where me and my friend Scott Harper we noticed the Moog pedals. And Scott hit me on the shoulder during the middle of Spirit of the Radio, and he's like, "Man, Getty's going nuts with those feet pedals." I'm like, "I want to buy them. I need them."
Classic.
Epic times.
Oh,
So
and before you continue, so you said 1985.
yeah,
Just some of my favorite albums came out, if you don't mind me
yeah,
saying. So
yeah. And I know
these
which
are
one you say right now.
I think okay, I got two that I
No
love so
jacket,
much.
jacket required.
Well, yeah, okay. That's three actually.
Oh wow.
That I had that one, but I wanted to mention so yeah, no jacket required because I do love early Phil Collins.
Yeah.
Um uh songs from The Big Chair from Tears for Fears,
Oh, why is that on my
which
list?
I love that album that came out too.
Like
Talk about iconic 80s album.
Beatles influence on that.
Oh, for sure. And then one of my favorite Dire Straits records, Brothers in Arms.
That's my
Ma
that's the first one on my list.
Massive rock albums, dude. Like can't you can't
Blew
what
up.
great year for music. Oh,
Yeah. I
oh,
also I
you said no jacket required.
Yeah, I have no jacket required. Brothers in Arms, Afterburner by ZZ Top,
Uh-huh.
huge album. John Mellencamp, Scarecrow,
Scarecrow, which is he's like Bruce Springsteen-esque.
uh,
Great album.
Theater of Pain by Motley Crue.
Motley
I
Crue.
actually saw that concert with Loudness, a Japanese band opening up. Live
Wow.
After Death, Iron Maiden. This was like next to Power Windows. We could not wait for this to come out. This was
Yeah.
huge. And if you're a metalhead, Slayer, which I really was into this album, Hell Awaits, um, was like a real sick. It was like, wow, what the fuck? What is this? Like, Slayer
Yeah.
hates real heavy, evil shit.
Talk about in like creepy, scary album cover.
That was, yeah, Slayer's, and I saw Slayer live, and it was like literally hell coming up from the ground. Like it was the loudest thing in the world. And it was like, you just sit there and you're like, oh my God. One of the like loudest metal shows I've ever seen. Like Tommy Araya was kicking ass. Phenomenal. Slayer, such a great band. Amazing band. If you don't know Hell Awaits, younger viewers, and you want to hear heavy shit, check out Slayer and Show No Mercy too, their first album. Those are my two favorites. So, basically, this album, I believe. Nope, that's the wrong note. Sorry.
Well, while you're talking, yeah. So and also, not my favorite, but Whitney Houston debut album came out. That was top
Yeah.
three best selling of the year,
Oh yeah.
and Aha, Hunting High and Low that had the iconic song "Take on Me." A
Great.
really great,
It is
great year for music.
great rhythm in that song where it goes ba 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 ba
Oh,
ba.
it's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So Power Windows,
Power Windows.
1985, Anthem Records. They bring in the same producer, Peter Collins, and
Yep.
we talked a lot about him. He gave him that sound on Grace Under Pressure. You
Yep.
know, to let Terry Brown go. And I thought Peter Collins did a great job on Great Under Pressure, Grace Under
Yeah.
Pressure, and he does a great job on this. He moves it more into that '80s sound because
Yep.
that's available. And who does not want a new technology? Do you want your old car or do you want a new car with power windows?
No, it makes sense. Makes
No.
sense.
Interesting recording. They recorded it in a bunch of studios. I didn't list all of them, but Angel Studios in England. They went overseas,
Yep. Yep.
and Abbey Roads. They
That's
did some.
interesting. Yeah.
The singles were Big Money, which is we just talked prior to the show how great that song is, and Mystic Rhythms.
Great singles. And can I just say,
Yeah,
um, Big Money should have been at least top five hit.
it charted. It was
I
out.
I think it should have been higher. The only problem is that they're in competition with like bands like Dire Straits, which had one of the, massive songs in Money
Money
for Nothing with a
and the
guest chorus vocal from
dang.
Sting.
Right?
I'm like,
Right.
oh gosh, you can't compare with that.
What's going on now? It's 1985. We are in the heart of MTV.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
massive. And we'll talk about the video like later on.
Yeah.
Like it's so cheesy, but I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it came out around this time of year, I remember. But it did well. Number two in Canada, number nine in the UK, and it hit the top 10 in the States.
Yeah. Yep.
So Rush, they did really good. So Big Money, the first track on the album. I'll talk a little bit about the meaning of that. Um, so materialism and corruption, influence of the wealth, hinting towards Wall Street. Now that was a big deal in the '80s. Wall Street. They even made the movie uh, with Michael Douglas, the famous speech and stuff. I don't know if it came out that year. It might have came out in '85. I forgot
Hmm.
to research that. So there was a lot of corruption going on in the big industry money. You know, not like now, Elon Musk and all these fucking
No,
guys.
now it's
A little different now,
well,
but
now
well,
it's different. Now it's more first of all, billionaires. You got like most people controlling the
not
wealth.
reptilian. I don't know how reptilian it was back then. To
Oh
quote the
gosh. No, maybe no, they were not reptilian, but they were still pretty like the movie
oh
American Psychos, like
oh yeah, they were fucked up.
or the movie The Wolf of Wall Street.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh.
I-
Oh, sharks. They're just sharks.
yeah, yeah. So this is Rush's like going against that mentality, always against even though Rush were successful and they had money, but they weren't going to be these guys. They weren't going to be these types of assholes. Uh, the pursuit of status symbols. Okay, you know, so you had to have your red Corvette, your
Yeah.
cocaine,
Oh, I was
know.
gonna say this was the height of materialism.
It,
There was even like a philosophy around it that
mhm,
the movie American Psycho kind of makes fun of, where
yeah.
you had to dine at the best, most
Mm.
exclusive restaurant, drive this car, have this
Oh,
suit.
yeah. Oh, I love that scene in the movie with his cards,
I was
handing out
gonna say,
cards.
I know, like they're comparing their cars and they look like each other, and the other guy freaks out because his
Guy.
has like some font or something.
Yeah, that scene is so funny. Oh my God. So yeah, that was my next thing, materialism. Empty promises, happiness by wealth and possessions. Does that really bring you happiness? Or is it just a shallow existence and you have this big house
That's
and everyone,
that's a timeless theme. And in the 90s, there's another movie that talks about that emptiness that, you think that you have the house, you have the car, you have a wife, you have children, you have a good
yeah,
job. The movie is American Beauty
I love that
with
movie.
Kevin Spacey that talks about the eventual emptiness that it's
I,
life.
I always thought he looked like Neil a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
N- Not to compare.
No.
We won't go there about Kevin Spacey and
I was gonna say
his
Kevin Spacey's controversy notwithstanding, I see that though.
yeah, you see the look. I was just devastated when I heard that, but
I
yeah,
know.
love that movie. Consequences of unchecked capitalism. Um, uh, inequality and exploitation. Think critical and resist the pressure to conform.
Hmm.
Classic Rush. So
Classic themes.
that about sums up what they're talking about. That material, whether you're on Wall Street or you're just some rich guy, and the status. 80s was it's still status in some
At a
places.
symbol. Yeah.
The temple.
No, no, yeah, right. Yeah, not much has changed. I feel like the
No,
temple,
but
all these themes are in there.
they are.
They just care
But
about their shoes being shiny.
yeah, but in the 80s it was really like
Yeah,
every
height. Well, and it's funny because Dire Straits would end up releasing a song, "Money for Nothing," that talks
yeah,
about that.
that's a
Those
great.
those artists that they're not, it's funny. Mark Knopfler sings, that little, you know, with
Yeah,
the earring in the makeup. It's all fake. It's all just
yeah.
status. It's not even real music anymore. So.
No, no. It was a theme that a lot of bands were talking about. Yeah,
No,
because
and even mentions microwave ovens as well, like talk about materialism and all that. Like,
all this new stuff was coming out that you had to
yeah,
have big screen TVs, and we all have them now. But back then, I had a rich friend uh, who had one, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I went to Rye Brook in his house, and I was like, "Holy shit! What is this? We're playing Atari on this thing. It's like, oh my god, it's a friggin' movie. We're playing in television on it. It's like So that was the whole concept. Then the influences on the actual lyrics, and we talked about this at the temple. John Huston's film, and forgive my Spanish, Treasure of the Sahara Madre.
see that is interesting. Yeah, I remember you mentioned that at the temple, and John Houston, right?
John Huston, yeah.
And I had to think about that because that is really interesting. The movie you're referring to is The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yep, I like the way you say it better than me.
Yeah, Sierra Madre, and it's a movie about greed, and
Yep.
I can see what you mean. How Neil would be inspired by, and it's a movie. He's not even inspired by, unless the book, Cheech.
Uh, I got movie in my research.
That's interesting.
And then he read a book by C. Wright Mills, The Power of the Elite from 1956. Now, this goes back to like Carnegie, that era, like 1956. This guy was writing about like Carnegie and all these, Rockefeller. That was in
Mhm.
that book, all these elitist type of people, kind of like the Elon Musks of the 40s and 30s and
Yeah.
stuff. Ayn Rand is definitely in here. Uh, Another economist named John Kenneth Galbraith.
Hmm.
He wrote a book critiquing of consumer culture. Nietzsche, Sartre, existentialism, thought-provoking lyrics, catchy songs, complex music. Now, any thoughts on what I just said about the lyrics and the influence?
Yeah, I think you hit all of the great points of the song. First from the title, the big money, right? It's Big Money.
Yeah,
Um, it seems that the song is critiquing the influence of money and society. Because you're right, at this point, this is the height of Wall Street. Like
yeah.
now, people aren't making, uh, like a little salary. They're making gigantic salaries, taking
Oh yeah,
advantage of the stock market, and we're seeing the beginnings of the corruption of Wall Street
yeah,
that the movie Wall Street will end up also looking at. Um, and also, and also the song looks at how money influences society, the way it drives decisions. Because
yeah.
again, all of these decisions, people don't, there's no heart anymore. It's all about money.
About
Money,
greed.
all about greed. And that's again going back to that song by literally Money for Nothing, Dire
Yeah,
Straits comes back to that.
and I think that in the '70s, that wasn't the mentality. People
No,
like
no.
my dad, was a successful house painter, and you were. he was able to. My parents had me, and we bought a house, nice house. Things were cheaper and modest and stuff, and that was the lifestyle of most people that we knew. And then all of a sudden, in the '80s, it was like, no, 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 you got to sell that house, get a bigger house, get a bigger job, that
Well,
kind of stuff.
the
Modest,
movie Wall Street, that's what it's about.
yeah,
Remember Charlie Sheen's dad is a simple factory worker at an airplane factory. He tells his son, just try to get a simple job, but the son wants to get into Wall Street and tries to copy the Wall Street brokers and falls in their dark, you know, path. So that's a good
such
point.
yeah, such a great movie, and I love Michael Douglas. I can't stop.
Oh,
That,
yeah, no, he's
that's the
amazing.
American greed.
Such a great speech. And also, and you mentioned this too, how money can control. Now, this is a key thing too. Talk about Orwellian themes. Money can control politics, media, personal relationships. The song makes it a symbol of unchecked power and corruption.
Yep.
So one of the things throughout the song that Getty keeps singing is big money goes around the world, big money underground, big money got a mighty voice. He keeps repeating big money.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just how money affects people.
definitely.
So I like this song. And behind the message, just going down one of the lyrics that's really good is this, where he says, sometimes building ivory towers, again, those people that live in these ivory towers while they're
Yeah.
ignoring the rest of society. Sometimes knocking castles down
Hmm.
to what was always amazing and stood the test of time is being
Yeah.
knocked by big money. Something building you a stairway, lock you underground. It's that old time religion. It's the kingdom they would rule. It's the fool on television getting paid to play the fool.
Yeah.
So it's a great song. It's definitely very cynical, but
Yeah.
offers and when I say cynical, is that it's not, it gives us sort of like the problems with focusing too much on greed and money and it
Oh,
just
yeah.
leads to selfishness and awfulness, which would make sense why if Neil got influenced by the movie the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, it would make sense because a big theme in that movie is greed, how it affects human nature, and the corrupting influence of gold
Oh,
in the gold rush age. So
yeah.
now we're in the big 80s, so
Oh, yeah. Amazing. That's a great analyzation, bro. It makes so much sense, man. Um, so musically, it's genius, I think.
I love the music, dude. For a first album opener,
Oh,
let me just say, first of all, I love the sounds they incorporate. Even though I get it, if going from, let's say, hemispheres,
yeah,
permanent waves, moving pictures to this, some people will say, "Man, I don't like this. What's up with this?"
yeah,
But dude, from the first when the song opens and it has that kind of propulsive beat, it sounds like video game music.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, whoa, this is such a great opener.
It's one of the best openers. That great synth opener. It has that, I always go back to Jump because they were all using those synthesizers and
Uh,
that.
I was gonna say, what's funny? I think I said this story. I was listening to because Subdivisions that's something similar, right? That boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom, and this was on dan 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 dan. It's just like that
yeah,
nice
yeah,
synthesizer riff. But I was with my brother and I put on Subdivisions, and
yeah,
my brother goes like, "Oh, 1984." I'm like, "No, bro, this is Rush's Subdivisions." He's like,
yeah.
"Really?" Because
And
you're
there's
right.
a great song on 1984, "I'll Wait" by
Yeah,
Van. It
yep,
has keyboards in it too.
another one.
This is the years 84, 85 of keyboards. Guitar players are playing synths and bass players are playing synths. So this has complex time signatures. So they're going back to odd meter again. That's
Yeah,
7/8/5/4, that 9/8 stuff I love. That was going on in hemispheres. That was going on in 2112. All that natural science, like all that odd meter stuff that they're known for. So that's what got me excited. Uh, and Alex's solo is incredible. He just tears
incredible.
up, builds it up, and the bass line. I don't think I have to say anything. The bass
No, Getty, yeah, the
is
bass line is really good. I don't know if it has a bass, but I can hear the complexity.
this is the best bass line on the album, and the drums Neil does the fill, and the best part
Oh,
of the song is when they stop, and then Alex comes in with dun, 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 and Neil's like
yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
that build up
Oh,
there.
dude.
Classic Rush. The best song on the album, in my
Uh,
opinion.
no, hands down. This is, I will say, they set themselves up way too high because, n not to say that the rest of the album is like, less than whatever, but they start with a bang, and I'll be honest with you, they don't match it. It's a controversial opinion, even though the rest of the
Yeah,
songs are amazing, and they almost match it with Mystic Rhythms, but in another way, right?
yeah,
And yeah, Neil's drumming is aggressive, and talk about like, I agree. This is a great blend of progginess
hmm
and 80ness pop.
yeah.
Like, that's they make it work better than Yes, even though I love some of the Yes's 80s albums.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
it's
yes, got real cheesy. I mean,
they
like,
did.
like Love Will Find a Way. I think it's a great song. It's a beautiful song.
How do you feel about the song It Can Happen to You?
I think it's good. I like all the Yes stuff in the 80s, but the production is way more
Yeah.
cheesy than
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean? Like,
It happened to Genesis too.
oh
Like
God. Oh,
and not to again, these are not bad albums, they're not, but
yeah.
they're like
And at least like okay, yes, had some great songs, that matched the production. Rush, of course, did. Genesis got a little weird, you
they
know.
did.
I'm sorry.
It started on the album that has that song Mother, even though that's a good song. Um and the song Illegal Alien, that album,
Well,
they
that's a
had
good album. We talked about that. Like, I got a
yeah.
name, got a number. That's a little earlier. That's like 84.
But
Like that.
I will admit it's a far cry from see
Oh,
Duke they did it right.
right.
Abacab they did it right. But then they embraced the 80s, and again I like it, but I can definitely see I'm like, oh, a little cheesy.
No, well, they did what Rush did. They took that technology, but they took it to like by the time Phil Collins is solo and he's doing Sister Studio, it's like no, I can't deal, I can't do it.
And
No,
no, but you got me. The Studio is it's a great 80s pop song. Like,
it is, but
see, I love it. I don't know why I love the Studio, so
I love
I don't know.
Steve Sklar, the bass players in the band video, but I was just kind of like, oh my god, no, I
It's
don't.
too much. It's
Yeah.
definitely 80s upswing.
Oh yeah. So just to recap, Big Money. It's a powerful commentary on excesses of modern society.
Yeah.
And
Practical. It's very practical, very down to earth.
yeah. So where are we with Mrs. Doubtfire? Because I know.
Oh, oh, 1 minute. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So before I get into the grand design, we'll just recap. Big Money and like Rush is taking Peter Collins is taking them to the next level of production. They're doing really getting sounds, Simmons drums at Electric Sounds.
You can hear it. Dude, this song is a perfect time capsule for the 80s.
Yeah, 1985, And who wouldn't? And it goes back to buying a car. Would you want your old car or do you want a new car that has all the new features in it? That's how I kind of look at it, you know. And it's like new technology, better sound to them. They're thinking like this is going to sound better, but to the fans, I wonder in the back of their heads, were they like, "Ooh, are the fans going to like this?" Because not everyone's. Our fans are from the '70s. Think about it. They got hippies. People in the '70s were listening to Rush, so now they're hitting people like my age, that like
Yeah.
15 years old. So maybe they're aiming at my group of people, my generation, and they're like, we're probably going to lose the older people, but we're going to gain these kids in high school because everyone. All right. So we wrapped up Big Money. Great song, great opener, but like you said, I wish there was more Big Monies on the album.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many great tracks, but Big Money's. standout. Mystic Rhythms. I think Marathon to me is a standout.
Yeah.
But the next one, I mean, there are definitely some great catchy songs, and there should have been more radio play for this one. The Grand Design.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All
Catchy.
of these songs are catchy. And you mentioned on the last album on Grace Under Pressure how the songs sound very similar to each other.
Yeah,
And this one, that case is even more. Yeah, it's even
yeah,
more the case that each song actually kind of sound alike. It's not a bad thing. It just makes
yeah.
for a nice thematic album.
Mm,
But from Big Money and between Mystic Rhythms, yeah. So you have these songs that are great,
yeah.
and a lot of them could have been top 10.
Oh, easily. Grand Design, even Manhattan Project. I'm surprised. Like that's really a catchy song.
Very.
Um, so Grand Design, it, a lot of cool concepts in this one. One of them is about personal growth, overcoming obstacles and challenges, embracing change and transformation in the classic Rush theme, individual freedom.
Mm.
So, how do you feel about those um, elements in the song?
Yeah, so once again, Rush returns to philosophy.
Yep,
And but I think I said this to you at the temple that this is one of the albums that tries to get away from more of the theoretical stuff and tries to make it more practical. And
social.
so yeah, and
Yeah,
so I agree with everything you said. And I think it's a struggle between individuality and societal pressures
yeah,
because and I think this is especially the case now. They're ahead of the curve here. But so I see the song as a critique, it critiques conformity, as always, a classic Rush theme,
yeah.
and it celebrates the pursuit of personal visions, ambition, right?
Hmm.
And emphasizing the importance of this is such a classic Neil theme, but the importance of staying true to to yourself in a
Yeah.
world that often pushes you to embrace, normalcy, conventionality,
Hmm.
um, and just some of the lyrics here. Again, grit lyrically, it's deep, but
Oh,
this time, instead of theoretical stuff, they start to really now ground themselves. So off, um, he starts the song here. Some of my favorite lines from the beginning is so much style without substance. And again, returning to money for nothing by Dire Straits. It seems to me that even Dire Straits were noticing there's something wrong with a lot of these also, musicians are they don't
yeah,
care. All they care about is making money, but
yeah,
and conformity. They don't care about being different.
yeah,
And he continues here, so much stuff without style. It's hard to recognize the real thing. And Neil says it because classic cynical Neil line here, it comes along once in a while.
yeah.
So I
So,
agree. So it's a great song,
yeah.
very practical.
I don't know why it wasn't bigger. Like these songs, you gotta dig for. Don't skip over them. When I would say CD, but if you go on YouTube and the album comes up and you get to pick the songs or wherever you listen to music, try to listen to every song because they are catchy and they are great
Mhm.
musically. Anything else do you want to say about the lyrics?
No,
I have a couple of mind fucks here that may take us on a journey about the
where
lyrics. I got to be very careful.
on this song.
Yeah, I got to be we got to be very careful with time, but I got a
I was
couple.
gonna say,
Oh,
just if Cheech, if you know about like one lyric that I found was pretty interesting,
uh-huh.
and again, these are all Neil Peart, so classic Neil.
Yeah,
He says here, like a righteous inspiration overlooked in haste, like a teardrop in the ocean, a diamond in the waste. Some worldviews are spacious, and some are merely space. Okay, now he's getting a little philosophical here, and you know. Again, a great song, honestly. Like
oh,
it kind of walks both lines, theoretical, but then
yeah,
grounds you and reminds you, don't sell yourself out.
no,
Be different, express your individuality. Don't be
exactly.
a conformist. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think me and you are definitely follow that philosophy,
Oh
ne
yeah.
never conforming to the the society that we live in. I always bring up that's something I taught in my daughter. Be yourself, and she's doing that. Because I've always done it. never really caring what people think. I used to, when I was younger, but now I'm just like, whatever. I am what I am.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah. I agree. That's the lesson I teach like, like
Some
my students.
and the sad thing is some people want to do that, but they're stuck in their job,
Yeah.
and they got that they want to be, say, in a band, or they want to go out and kick ass or pick up the guitar from 30 years ago, or they got as my grandfather would say, they're henpecked by their wives. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. And it's all that
Yeah.
kind of, and they
Well,
and they get stuck in that fucked up world, and their dreams are destroyed. And
dude,
that's a lot of people.
dude, it's funny how you mentioned that because today I had a lesson for my seventh graders, and for some odd reason, maybe the spirit of Neil Peart, like, jolted me, or the spirit of Robin Williams from Dead Poet
Yeah,
Society. I had like a Dead Poet Society moment with my students, and I
awesome.
told them, I paused and I said, if you have dreams, if you have passions, pursue them. Like I kept telling them, pursue them. Like don't, if you know your passion, chase after it. Because I was telling them I chase my passion and it's gotten me to so many cool places. So I
Yeah.
agree. I'm so sad that a lot of people are stuck at their dead end jobs or, not your case, but people at our fellow like friends
we,
at the,
yeah, we won't go there. Like, I've always felt like I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I want to do.
oh yeah, no, you're more than that. Like it's amazing.
After, yeah, I wish I could be on a Getty Lee success, but
Yeah,
that wasn't going to happen.
no,
But doing what you do is the most
yeah,
important.
yeah.
And if you don't, and if just one thing is your job that you're stuck in, and you walk around like a Shrek or somebody, and and that's your life. It's like,
I was gonna say, I mean, I would hate myself, but and what's funny too, with what you just said there is, so when I was talking to my students, I was also giving some background of myself, and I was telling them my inspirations and my role models, because I have an assignment with them around that, and
yeah,
I was telling them, I at one point was going to become a psychologist. I
yeah,
wanted to become a psychiatrist, thinking about going in philosophy. I wanted to direct movies, start
yeah.
a band. I learned guitar, and they were like, and one of my students said, "Mr. O, are you trying to say like if you weren't a teacher, like you could have been famous or like it feels?" I was like, "No, what I'm trying to tell you is, I'm doing something I love. I don't
Yeah.
care if I'm never famous. Like if I could have been a and I still could do it, study,
Oh, of course, you're young.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But I love actually like, what I do. So what you
yeah,
say, it's like,
yeah. Like, and that's what the people don't understand today. Everybody wants to be fucking famous on YouTube or Instagram, Facebook. It's about passion. It's about doing your
yeah,
thing. And if you get lucky and you get famous, you get paid what you do,
great,
great. If you
great.
don't, still do it. Still
Still
do
do
it.
it. Who cares?
Learn a
Exactly.
craft at
And that's rock
heart.
and roll. Rock bands
Yeah,
started like that. Rush, they
exactly.
toured. They didn't care what people thought of themselves.
Pick up an instrument, learn an instrument, write a poem, go to an
Yeah.
open mic, go to an open poetry thing, do those things, and sneak out of the house if you're one of these henpecked motherfuckers who are scared to do it. Go to an open mic. Come on. Okay.
Yeah, seriously.
So musically, it's gonna sound a lot like Grace Under Pressure. Like my comments. Great guitar work as always. Now the difference from this and Grace Under Pressure is more intricate rhythms. So they're
Yeah.
doing the odd meter. They're
Yep.
getting back to that. Emotional lyrics, heavy synth, uh, and like I said, great melody, complex music, inspirational lyrics. Now this is gonna mind fuck you, and I don't know if I'm wrong or right, and you tell me about the lyrics. So basically, to sum up the song, a reflection of human potential for growth and self transcendence.
Mm.
My summary, you know. So what he was reading, Neil, and I'm going to say this wrong. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but Nietzsche's "Thus Spoke Zarathustra."
Zarathustra.
Yeah, Zarathustra. He
Yeah.
was reading that. This is going to mind fuck you. This might be the whole show. Okay, Carl Jung The psychology of the unconsciousness.
You're opening up a can of worms.
And Abraham Maslow pops
And
up on toward a philosophy,
w-
toward a psychology of being.
Maslow's interesting. So was Neil reading Maslow?
Yeah. He was reading Maslow and then the Carl Jung, the psychology of the unconsciousness.
See, that's really interesting. So where do you want to start? Because that's
This is your thing. You tell me.
oh man. So first of all, Carl Jung. Oh my goodness. If that's the case with this song, I could see that, especially with some of these, like the really deep lines, like the one I just mentioned, where um like he says, your life in two dimensions is a mass production scheme. All right.
Hmm.
It's so what he's saying is actually just going back a little bit, shapes and forms against the norms, against the run of the mill, swimming against the stream. Life in two dimensions is a mass production scheme. So just that line alone, I could see what uh how Carl Jung is an influence, and also Maslow. Now, so 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 Maslow and Jung are different. I don't know if you knew that.
No, no, that I know. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
Graham Maslow's not as deep as Carl Jung, as getting inner into your inner world.
yeah, because Maslow was respond now where I see Maslow is what you just said, that a lot of people have certain needs, right? And Maslow developed the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
That was his famous theory, and at 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 the top is self-actualization. So in this song, it would make sense that, with the grand designs, I think first of all, Neil's making some bold claims here.
Yeah.
Where from the title, what exactly is he talking about a grand design? And so Maslow says once certain needs are met, your goal in life for the most happiness in your life is to self-actualize, finding your purpose, finding meaning in life, which again will echo in Viktor Frankl many years later.
Yep.
He,
Yep.
and he developed this theory. It's very humanistic. It
Right.
was it was counter Freud. Freud was more dark, and in Jung is more unconscious. So kind
Yeah.
of
Or,
following
or
Freud.
internal, the internal world, right?
Yeah, which Freud started, but he reduced everything to sex very much. So
Yeah.
Young said, I don't know about that. And he divided the unconscious into two parts. So hopefully if I'm gonna say it and then see how maybe you can chip in and how chime in and how it kind of adds to the song. But he says there's a personal unconscious, right, which contains the repressed and forgotten memories.
Hmm.
Okay, so he's splitting the unconscious here.
And the
There are
collect.
Right, and then you have the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
So I have a theory that that's what Neil with the grand design is what he's referring to here, and it's a deeper layer shared by all humanity,
Yeah.
right? So you have a personal and you got a collective versus Freud, who had more personal unconscious and more id, superego, and ego.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the id is your instinctual drives, motivated mostly by, you know, all the stuff that had to do with sex, for example.
Yeah. Which I like Freud, but Jung is so much more deeper. And
I,
oh,
I,
props to Freud, the father of, well, or maybe William James is the father of psychology. I don't know. It's debatable,
well,
right?
it's debatable. Like in my book, so it depends. William James took psych in a more scientific field. He took some
Yeah.
stuff seriously. Freud is a philosopher.
Yeah. Yeah.
William James is also a philosopher,
True.
and so you have these kind of like it's kind of hard to tell really.
Yeah.
Um, but Jung, being a student of Freud, he saw how brilliant his philosophy was, and just for example, he developed so knowing that there's a personal unconscious and a collective unconscious,
Yeah.
the next thing in the collective unconscious is filled with archetypes. So this is the famous archetype theory,
That's
and
right.
so this is it, right? And so just going back to the song. I think so he gets kind of really deep here, and we just to analyze this is where he says we break the surface tension with our wild kinetic dreams, curves and lines of grand designs.
Yeah.
So what is he talking about here? What is the grand design he's referring to? And I think if you use Jung, you'll kind of it's really deep,
Yeah,
and just the archetypes are the building blocks of the collective unconscious.
right.
So you everyone falls into these archetypes, and think about it. If you're acting conformist, right? You're
Yeah,
going. This is just my theory on it, but if you are conforming to what how everyone is, there in a way you might be going against the collective unconscious.
right, right, right.
Because one of them is like the hero.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, and just examples here. Um, they're universal. So this is young, and again, this is philosophy. It's not scientific psych, but I think there's a lot of truth in it.
I love this philosophy. I
Oh,
love.
I'm a huge. If anything, if I ever get a PhD in psych, I would try to return psych to more,
I
just kind of.
one of the greatest psychologists, philosophers ever, next to
Oh,
Nietzsche. I
oh,
mean,
hands down. And you know why I like Jung? Because he embraced myth and religion. He didn't disregard it.
yeah,
Nietzsche disregarded it, and
yeah,
because he had reasons. He's
yeah,
he's one of the best. He's the evangelizer for atheism. But
yeah.
Jung was not an atheist. He
Oh,
really thought about this stuff. And so the archetypes, you have the mother archetype, the hero archetype, and the shadow, right? So he started this work with, the unconscious, and so that would make sense. Now Maslow different.
yeah,
Maslow returned things to more human. If anything, he's an existentialist.
really? You would
Because
consider Maslow an
uh,
existentialist?
yes, and here's why. And again, no one, if anyone's watching this that's really, no psychology, don't hate me. This is like my theory because at this point, this is like the 1950s, 1960s.
Mm,
Maslow is interesting. He saw a lot of, he got trained in psychoanalysis and really exploring Freud's,
yeah,
you know, way of seeing the mind. But he noticed, you know what? But here's the thing. I noticed there are certain needs that man needs before anything else. So on the bottom of the triangle is some of his basic needs like food,
mm,
water,
yeah,
etc. Next is like, shelter, a home, friendship. So
yeah,
once those three levels are met, right? Because humans are social creatures, then you go up to these, higher ideals. So talk about
right,
the grand design. And again,
yeah,
just think about it. If you put all your needs in greed, or or even if you conform, so if you're not making good friends and you're just conforming and making fake friends, so
yeah,
already you're not meeting one of the needs and you're not going to self-actualize.
right.
So he's a more humanist, he's a more existentialist in a
Hmm.
way because he's returning to these things, ideas of existence. But
Right.
Freud is definitely more like,
Yeah,
more theoretical.
yeah, yeah. That's just blew my mind. And I told you, open up the can of worms.
I'll stop because at this point I don't want to. But
Young stuff.
Cheech, like in terms of like the song, what do you think? Like, is there anything patterns you're seeing?
Oh, I see it totally. I see the Carl Jung collective consciousness concept in there. The was it the what was the other thing? Well, the psychology of the unconscious. Now that's the book. That's his main. Is that his main book? Because I think I
One
read.
of them.
Yeah, and
I'll,
it's all
I'll, I'll be honest, all of his books are amazing. But
yeah,
that's one of them
but it's definitely coming from that, and it all goes back to conforming or not conforming, right? In the bottom
in a
basic,
way.
you know. So yeah, I mean Neil, he puts these guys in a 4 minute song, like in the lyrics.
No, that's what's amazing about this song. In a span of, again, it's interesting. In 5 minutes, he puts so much into these lyrics, but there's a practicality about it.
Yeah,
The the idea is you have to be careful with conforming and
yeah,
ignoring your grand design. I don't know if that's what Neil was up to when writing the song, but
yeah.
I I
In
great
big
lesson
finding your grand design as a human being. I guess that would be right. The
yeah
purpose,
yeah
your purpose of this. Your
yeah
purpose, and but to put Maslow and Jung and Nietzsche in rock and roll,
amazing.
the professor, he's just,
It's amazing. I wish I could write lyrics like this.
my
It's
brain is
amazing.
God damn, you just blew me away. That was amazing, Annie. Amazing. Down
Thank you, Cheech.
young. I
Thank.
know, you know, whenever I talk to our good friend Jacobo in philosophy, I'm like, where's Manny? Where's
Oh, dude. Speaking of Kobo, I hope maybe Saturday, the temple will talk. I had a great conversation with him yesterday,
oh, he's so
talking about, dude, I didn't know this dude was like that. I mean, I knew, but this is the first time I was talking to him. And I had this great, and it's funny, it was 9:30, we're closing time,
yeah,
and it was like we had this, and we probably would have stayed there a couple more hours because we were talking about Darwin's evolutionary theory,
yeah.
God, science, and it was epic.
He's so smart. He's an old soul, way ahead of his time. He's
Oh,
gonna be even smarter when he gets out of
oh,
college. Genius that
oh
kid.
yeah.
How so any want to wrap this up? Any
I think we covered everything music wise.
I think
Another
we did.
great song.
Let me
Uh,
pick up part of my brain off the floor. So, how's Mrs. Doubtfire? She's probably
we're
crept in.
no we're no no we're still good. And I will say the next one, the Manhattan Project. Oh man.
Yeah. Oh God.
So
Oh,
this one is gonna be
oh
interesting.
my God. I have a lot of notes on Manhattan Project because of it's popular now because of Oppenheimer, the movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
which is amazing.
Great movie. But Rush wrote about this in 1985, during the Cold War. But I don't think a lot of people were talking about this in the 80s. This wasn't something, the atomic bomb wasn't really, you know, a big thing being talked about. So to write a song about it is a history lesson.
Yep. Yep.
60s, obviously the 50s and the 60s, they were talking about Hiroshima and this and then
Hmm.
Vietnam, kind of people forgot about it, and then the 80s, here comes a great history lesson. This song is a history lesson.
I was gonna say, talk about again. This is Rush. Now, I'll be honest with you. Rush have not done a history lesson song. Not to this extent. The whole song is history.
Yeah, and
And
I like Maiden. I've learned so much history from. Like they have a song called Alexander the Great.
right.
Like I remember being a kid going like, learning about that and then going up to my history teacher, Mr. DeCecco, and being like, what do you know about Alexander the Great? And it's one of those things. Oh, why are you talking about him? Did you see a documentary? No, I listened to an Iron Maiden song, you jackass.
Dude, see that, yo, man, yo, you can't get better than that. But and again, the whole song is there is a little bit of philosophy, but I agree with you. It's mostly history, and it's interesting because there was not much. You're right. During this time, it's just so recently, and Oppenheimer was based on a book that was, I think, released in, I don't know, like 2000 or something. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that had to do something with like the top secret nature of it, or
It
I don't know.
it gets pretty deep, and it is a history lesson, and I'll just jump into it. Manhattan Project, explore nuclear weapons. Topics of the lyrics: nuclear bombs and its consequences, scientific progress versus moral responsibility, blurred line between scientific discovery and military application, reflection of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, these are the themes that are going on in this song. I mean, any comments on that? I'm going to get into the whole his timeline of Manhattan Project a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, no, I think you got all of them pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, good job, Cheech. Yeah, that's what pretty much this. And this movie is like the movie Oppenheimer,
It's
directed
the
by
movie
Christopher Nolan,
Oppenheimer before the movie Oppenheimer.
pretty much in 1985. Yeah,
So
I wonder if Nolan, the director, was a Rush fan.
maybe he was. I mean, once again, they're prophecies. They're talking about something that was going to be made into a movie. It's amazing. So historical reference. Um, the Manhattan Project, 1942 to 1946. J. Robert I would say his name wrong.
Uh,
Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer, yep.
father of the atomic bomb. Now this guy is interesting. Enrico Fermi. Uh, he was the nuclear reactor experiment 1942. I don't
Mhm.
know if the movie. Um, and then the Trinity nuclear tests, where they started to do tests like in New Mexico in the deserts.
No, and notice the name they gave it, Trinity. Like you can't
Yeah,
like
they
yeah.
started to mess around with you know, this uh bomb idea. So this isn't the actual history. Yeah, this is just influence. So Albert Einstein warning on the nuclear bomb, and then a woman named Bertrand Russell. She wrote a book called Anti-Nuclear Activism. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
Maybe
What's the woman's name?
Bertrand. Maybe it's a guy. I don't know. Bertrand
Well,
Russell.
that's the philosopher, the
That's a philosopher.
mathematician, Bertrand Russell. Yeah,
Oh, and
and he's famous. It's not
and
a woman, if that's the case,
oh,
but
I thought it was a yeah. No, then you're right. Anti-nuclear activism. A
okay.
book. And then this is the woman. I'm sorry, Hannah Aratina, critic on nuclear age politics. I just got my notes mixed up. That's the woman, Hannah Aretina's critics on nuclear age politics. So this
Oh.
Russell guy must have wrote the book Anti-Nuclear Activism. I don't know. I should have put the year. I didn't find the year. So here's the timeline. Uh, and let me know how we're doing on
Yep,
time.
yep. No, we're good right now.
Okay. Manhattan Project, 1939. Albert Einstein warns President Roosevelt about the German potential to develop an atomic bomb. Okay. 1942, Manhattan Project begins. Oppenheimer's the director. 1943, secret research development in New Mexico starts to happen. 1945, the U.S. drops uranium bomb Little Boy. They name it Little Boy on Japan. This is so depressing and sad, killing 140,000 people, destroyed 70% of the cities and buildings. And
Which city?
and what was it?
There's two. So Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Yeah, Nagasaki.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then the aftermath of that, cancer, birth defects, all this fucked up, horrible stuff, you know. So, any, uh, take it away on that, you know. I mean, let me just say one thing. Do you think if Roosevelt was president, because Truman dropped the bomb, you
Yeah.
know, would Roosevelt have listened to Einstein? Now we're getting real historical here.
Man.
We're getting beyond a Rush show anymore.
So it's funny because so FDR was first of all he was this time period is so crazy because first of all they were recovering from the stock market crash of the 1920s
Yeah, yeah,
and
28.
it caused like a Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So FDR was really focusing on that. And then Hitler decides to install the Third Reich and literally uh copying the Romans establish the German Empire in Europe, which,
Yeah,
it's so he's dealing with that as well. And then and then it turns out there is a race to develop the nitrogen bomb.
yeah,
And so United States being one of the world powers, you know, he started it. Now, would he have dropped it? It's hard to say. Now, he did react to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor,
exactly. That
right?
was station. Yeah,
And he literally declared a declaration of war on Japan.
yeah,
And yeah, and pretty much he also worked closely with the Allies, the Allies against the Axis powers.
yeah,
And And he even, again, kind of controversial, but he ordered the internment of the Japanese Americans in America as well.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, I think he would have dropped it.
Would have done
Oh,
it.
he would have done it because in that period, I think I was telling you at the temple when it's hard to say for us because I'm thank God I haven't experienced war or
Yeah.
this awfulness, but
I I wish my grandfather was still alive, because this is stuff like I would he would definitely he was in World War II. He was a veteran.
yeah.
Um, and we would talk about the war and stuff, but like I never would have gotten this deep with him because I never studied this stuff. It's crazy.
No, it's interesting.
About the fun times he had in Germany, drinking in the girls.
No, honestly, and again, so dealing with World War II is there was a race for the nitrogen bomb.
Yeah,
And so there's this attitude that it's either us or them,
yeah,
right? And what's also interesting as well is that the Soviet Union were already also designing a nitrogen bomb. Hitler was in the process of designing one as well. So
yeah,
there was a race. And so had he lived, I think he would have. Now, would he have dropped two? I'm not sure, but I think at least one.
yeah, yeah. Wow. I mean, just heavy, heavy shit. Amazing. In the movie, pretty what we're talking about in the movie Oppenheimer, this is everything, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
You
pretty much.
can get into the history. So we covered a lot on the history of the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project is a powerful commentary on the nuclear age and the scientific responsibility and human fragility in existence. That's how I would sum it up. So any other things on the history part of it? Because you did a great job just explaining, you know.
Yeah, just one more thing, and just back to the FDR thing.
Yeah,
So he was prepared. Again, just I can't stress this enough. Like he took us into World War II, and he was, at that point when he got permission from Congress to declare war on the Axis powers.
yeah,
He was already prepared to use atomic weapons against both Germany and Japan. There's no doubt about it. And the only problem is that a bomb was not ready for testing until Oppenheimer came along.
right, right,
That's the
right.
problem now. And Einstein had already formulated some theories
Yeah,
in terms of, splitting an atom and all that.
yeah.
And so Eisenhower gets all the credit. He just
But
took over.
yeah, yeah. But Roosevelt set it all.
I think he would have, especially because the in the again, so much people give
It,
there's so much ethical
it's
concerns.
parody like Tesla invented so many things, and Edison is always the guy that now Tesla's getting recognized as
Right.
for years it was Thomas Edison, Thomas Edison. So I think Roosevelt was the man who set this in motion, and Truman just was the president at that time. And Einstein was the guy, the human feeling saying, don't do it, pretty much.
Right, right. Because again, all this research and the problem is with nuclear fission, the Germans were doing it. So it's kind of this thing where it's either us or them.
Yeah.
Like there is no doubt if imagine this if Germany bombed the hell out of England, like dude, they were bombing England and had they had a chance for the USA, they would have came over and started dropping if they won the race for the atomic bomb, yeah, they would have started and no doubt it just meant if Japan also attacked Pearl Harbor,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And it's
God
crazy.
knows.
I've heard Pete Townsend talk about it. Growing up, he was born in like 47, 46, and you know, there were towns that he was a little kid playing in of
Yeah.
old bombed out buildings and stuff that was still left over from being bombed. It was a crazy story I heard from Pete Townsend. So let me just get into the music. since we just covered so much on the history lesson, and this is dope.
And by the way, we have like 4 minutes, so I think this would be good because otherwise we'll have like a 2 hour episode on
Yeah.
this moment in time alone.
Yeah, I mean, great job explaining it, and
Yeah, same to you.
I like the Roosevelt Truman concept because I was thinking about that a lot. Like, did Roosevelt deserves more credit for
Yeah, I
for this?
think so.
I don't know
Yeah.
about the history of World War II, but Truman seems to be the guy on that in this particular
Well,
topic.
he was in that he pretty much like took over FDR and he was all for it, honestly. And
Yeah.
he definitely like talk about the Manhattan Project. He put pressure on Oppenheimer, money, made sure to send like, the top general of the USA to keep an eye on Oppenheimer, see his progress. And actually one more thing on Einstein. So Einstein was a pacifist who hated war. He despised war.
Yeah.
So he actually, and you mentioned this already, but he really regretted any work he did on the bomb because again, Einstein is a mathematician, like mathematical genius.
Oh,
Like he's able to see stuff that we don't in terms of math. And he's quoted as saying that with Einstein, like had he known that the Germans would not succeed in developing a atomic bomb, he
yeah.
would have done nothing, no type of math work on
Yeah.
anything in USA soil.
Yeah.
And it's one of the regrets of his life.
Wow.
Yeah, and he actually had another regret too, because we know that he developed the theory of relativity,
Yeah.
and like he did some work into gravity and all that. And at one point, like when he was studying the cosmos, he reached a point where he said to himself, "If I go any further, my mind is gonna go crazy." Which is there's some stuff that we don't understand
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
about the cosmos. Einstein
Was
is,
was he religious, man?
what's funny? He's one of those mysterious ones, but if you look at him carefully, I think he was. Now, I'm not sure because I think he was like a Jewish background. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not sure, but he worked with a Catholic Jesuit priest that
Hmm.
developed the Big Bang theory.
Right.
So they
Okay.
had a partnership.
Funny, a Catholic priest, but
I
but,
know. So
but
I know. I know.
that's opposite of Catholic,
I know.
thought. I'm just on a quick funny story about Einstein. When I was in music college, one of an old teacher who was a phenomenal, I think her name was Mrs. Jaffe, opera singer. She used to teach rhythm dictation, and she said, Einstein, she heard from people who knew him. As old this lady was.
Right.
Said he had a hard time. He loved music, but he
Oh,
had a hard
Einstein.
yeah he had a hard time counting four and playing the violin. Okay, could you fucking imagine that? You would think Einstein could pick up a guitar and sound like Eddie Van Halen, but he couldn't play the violin and count four.
No, it's telling.
It's crazy. Okay, wow, this is deep, man. So musically, haunting guitars, atmospheric, going back to that Brian Eno influence.
Yep, yep. Oh, you know what's funny? The rhythm of the song does not match the lyrics.
It's a weird rhythm,
It's
yeah.
strange.
Well, this is a
In a good
very
way. In a good way. Oh, by the way, Cheech, less than a minute, FYI.
I think this is the song when I saw him in concert. No, it's not this song. It's another song. It's Territories, where they did a crazy light show. But the lyrics are emotional, a lot of tension on the synthesizers. So you feel that tension of what the song is about. Thought-provoking lyrics, music is complex and it's a history lesson if you really want to listen and learn and just be like, oh, Manhattan Project. Oh, it's all right. So the next track on Power Windows is Marathon.
Hmm.
And I really learned something on this. I think you learned something too, because
Yeah.
I did not know this, and we'll get there. Um, but yeah, so now we got we just covered a lot of history and philosophy. So we'll get into more history with Marathon. So Marathon is interesting. Yeah, not only history, but it's basically a runner, running in a marathon.
Yep.
And Neil talks about perseverance and determination and self-discovery.
Hmm.
And I like that because the marathon runners are a lot like being a musician.
Yeah.
A lot of training, a lot of practice, a lot of dexterity and working on like can you play for an hour and a half? That takes a long time to build up to get your fingers and your muscles and everything being able to play for an
Mm.
hour and a half. It takes years to get there. I can't imagine being a runner. You know, I knew a guy at the temple, believe it or not, who was a marathon runner, and he would tell me he'd have to run every day. Like
Wow.
every single day because he would do these marathons. So I love the perseverance and the determination and the self discovery. That you're discovering things about yourself that you think you couldn't do, but you could do. So there's a lot of psychological aspects to being a marathon runner. The journey um, of the individual to strive uh, to reach their goals. So that the journey is just as good as the finish line.
Hmm.
If you came in last, hey, you finished the marathon. You
Hmm.
still won in my eyes. Just like a boxer who goes, whatever, 12 rounds with the champ, he loses, but he still went 12 rounds with the champ,
Right.
you know. Basically balance, ambition, and personal growth is all part of that as well. And about running a marathon and how to train and prepare for it.
Hmm.
So anything on those?
No, I think you hit all the good points. Yeah,
Yeah.
again, talk about they're getting away from theoretical stuff and more, grounded,
Yeah. And
um,
it's a great concept because it's about endurance. A musician and a marathon runner, like I said, are so similar. You need endurance to play.
yeah,
When I play a 2 hour show, you need endurance. You got to practice all the time, or you're going to get tired. Your fingers are
yeah,
going to get tired. So it's a lot of work to be a marathon runner
yeah,
and a musician,
yeah,
or anything.
yeah.
Um,
No, and again, just true achievement is often a slow and challenging process. So,
yeah.
we see a marathon runner, but it takes a lot of hard work to get to that point.
Oh yeah, yeah. People think it's easy. I can't. I'm sorry. You ever try? Well, you jog. You jog, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could relate to this. If I jog, I'd probably drop dead and have a heart attack. I can't. I don't
Yeah,
even.
no, it's baby steps. It's a long process to get yourself go. I actually have to get back at it again, only
Right.
because of
I
timing.
I do jog. I lied. Every Sunday night at the temple around 9:10,
I was gonna say,
right before that door locks. I'm a marathon runner. Let me tell you.
oh, well, and also speaking of that, it would make sense. Look at this. It's a metaphor, the metaphor of a marathon. It's used to describe perseverance, endurance, and long-term goals. So I don't know
Yeah,
how you do it.
yeah, it's crazy. I'll talk about the music quick. The music is complex time signatures. Interesting. 11/8, 7/8, and 4/4.
Hmm.
So 7/8 would be going back to like subdivisions. That
Right,
dan 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 dan
right,
dan
right.
1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 3. 11/8 is like a 50s feel, like 6/8, like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 1 2 3 4. Oh God, getting a chill. So like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 1 2 3. But what they're doing is they're taking that 12 out and they're going like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 1 2 3 4. So they're taking out that one beat.
Hmm.
And we all know what 4/4 is. The music gets intricate and music passages, and of course, always heavy synth.
Yeah, it's very similar sounding to the previous songs, and it's great. It's a really good song.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if I should bring this up, but we'll go by it quick. We got other songs to go to. Orwell themes of individualism, perseverance, the struggle against oppressive forces, Ayn Rand, objectivism, self-reliance, personal achievements.
Hmm.
Joseph Campbell, A Hero's Journey.
Wow.
So,
Man, some rabbit holes right there.
yeah, if you want to say like 2 minute rabbit hole so we don't get lost.
Um, well, I'll probably save it for like the next songs because, but like on the surface, it's a really straightforward song. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I could see how he's distilling what you just said, all those influences into this
Okay.
one song.
Yeah.
Um, all all I'll say is like the final stanza of the song where he says, "You can do a lot in a lifetime if you don't burn out too fast.
Yes.
You can make the most of the distance. First, you need endurance. First, you've got to last." So again, it's just like one of these songs that it's simple at first,
Right.
and it's getting away from the theoretical, and it's yeah, applying some of the theoretical stuff to life.
Right. And the one thing I forgot, oh God, I should be shot. The bass line is incredible. Boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom, ba-do-do-do, boom. I
yeah,
learned that, and I remember learning that in Big Money. That was one of the toughest ones to learn. So this is something we both learned. I studied Greek mythology. I missed this one. So Greek mythology, um, the Greek marathon runner. I'm gonna fuck his name up. Phidippididis.
I mean, to be fair, it is it, it's if I just if, I can see the pronunciation, but it's I think Spidippides,
Okay.
yeah, Pheidippides.
He is the inspiration of a marathon because he
Oh yeah,
ran from Marathon to Athens
right, right,
to deliver the news that they won the Battle of Marathon.
yeah,
And that's
to
where,
Athens. Yep,
yep, and that's where the marathon comes from. So I had no idea was the marathon guy, and it makes sense. The Olympics is all Greece and everything,
yeah,
So not a well known Greek mythology, but of course Neil picks some of the most interesting
yeah.
type of people. Okay, so the next song is Territories. Now this one we talked about at the temple a little bit. I found this interesting. Once again, this is kind of a throwback almost to Grace Under Pressure.
Yeah.
Nationalism, territorialism, the human tending to defend one's self through geography boundaries. Um, so, any comments on that?
Oh yeah, I think again once again, it's Rush making oh, and I forgot to mention this, all the songs make some sort of social commentary. And they were already starting to do it, but
Yep.
they're getting away for so Marathon with the Parapheraphides or uh, I gotta find out how to pronounce it. He has a long name.
Let's just call
Um
him Jeffrey Dahmer for sake.
So Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, it- so Middletown James once again is down to earth, social commentary,
Yeah.
application more than theoretical. And I agree with everything you said. It's examining nationalism, the conflicts that arise between territorial disputes,
Yeah.
culture divides. It also critiques the human kind of habit of drawing boundaries,
Yeah. Yeah.
which he was already doing on subdivisions and how you see others as enemies based on like a bunch of factors like geography, race, culture.
Hmm.
And at the end of the song, he calls for like unity and understanding in a fragmented world, which would make sense because I think the 1980s was in a way kind of fragmented.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was about territories too. Parts of the world. Gaddafi
Yeah. Yeah.
was going on.
When
Um,
were the Dahmer murders? Was they in the 1980s?
yeah, of course. Yeah. No, no, no,
See,
no, no, no. I take
no.
that back. No, no, no. In the '90s.
Okay. I was gonna
He's
say maybe he's
creeping up.
offering some commentary on Dahmer.
Was it the '80s? No, no, because he's
Are you
like,
sure it was in the 80s? It might have been the 80s. Who was it? Oh, the Zodiac Killer. He was definitely the
yeah, yeah.
right.
No, Dahmer was in the '90s.
Right.
Yeah, like I think early '90s, 92, 93.
Oh gosh, you
Yeah.
definitely learned from
But
like
he
Gacy.
definitely killed people in the 80s. He killed
I was
people
gonna say I think he started in the 80s and the 90s he just like
everything. And he got busted in the 90s, you know.
eh,
So we got it. You
um
know what? We're gonna do a show on Dahmer. Definitely. We got to do a
oh
show.
we're gonna do all, that's coming the
Yeah.
true crime part of our show.
And maybe we'll
I,
call the kid. I found his name from the subdivisions video I sent to you. We'll call him to be our guest.
I was fun fact doing my research I heard he um that was Dahmer.
Yeah.
They were
Um,
talking about Dahmer. No,
yeah.
but going back to the song, yeah, it's really straightforward um and Neil kind of critiquing our tendency of drawing boundaries. So
Yeah.
if anything, it's definitely relevant today. And some of the um I think this applies to the priests of the temple. Look at this line. The bosses get talking so tough. And if that wasn't evil enough, we get the drunken and passionate pride of the citizens along for the ride. Come
Yep.
on, man. Like,
Uh,
dude, I'm so lucky I don't experience them from that awfulness from the priest, but
yeah. 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 You know, it's
they draw boundaries, they're down there, in their little boundary and
they're about territories too.
oh yeah, oh
We all
yeah.
have our territories there. This is a good example.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Don't leave your territory because you might get in trouble.
Well, to quote
Uh,
Neil in the song, they shoot without shame in the name of a piece of dirt for a change of accent of the color of your shirt. Man, this is like a theme for like the temple.
it totally is.
You don't have a name tag, they'll shoot you.
We won't go any further.
So now speak about the music as well. Like another great track.
Yeah. Just a couple more. Why people identify themselves by borders and territories in a division, and in that division, conflicts arise. So that's going on with Russia, obviously. That's a great example. Now, um, other themes of national pride, individualism. We are more than geographical origins. We're people. Doesn't matter where we're from. We should just be people. Identity, community, global unity. Music.
No,
Oh
it's
yeah,
before the music. I want to mention something.
yeah,
There's a funny line, but before I mention that line in the song, so Neil and Getty sings, we see so many tribes overrun and undermined. And again, yeah, that's always a danger when we split ourselves like kind of like into tribes.
yeah.
And while their invaders dream of lands they've left behind, I'm gonna read that line again. While their invaders dream of lands they left behind, and look at this funny line: better people, better food, and better beer.
Wow.
And the way Getty sings it in the song, I always found it was really funny.
Yeah,
And then they get really deep with the next line. Why move around the world when Eden, a reference to Genesis, was
yeah.
so near? So
Wow.
calling back to that one unity. But I like that line where he's just like, and better beer.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just like, what?
I'm throwing a little comedy. Um. Okay, so the great arpeggio riffs on the guitar work.
Yeah.
You know, great bass, heavy synth, a sense of tension. This is the song I remember when I saw them, where they used crazy light shows. This is where Rush started to get into heavy lights. Heavy, they weren't like big on lights. They started in, like Tom Sawyer, they had regular lights on the exit stage left, but then this is where the light show got crazy. And this is
Mhm.
where I think, in this particular song, I remember strobe lights were big back then. And like the stage looked insane. I remember during territories,
Right.
and everything is like going, you know. And I think they took that idea from another Canadian band called Triumph, who was all about the light show. They were doing the light show in the 70s. So Russia's starting to add like lighting, visual effects to their live show, which is cool. And I remember that like it was yesterday. That and the lights are just going bananas, crazy. Okay, and this is the first song to use MIDI technology. And I think I didn't mention this is also the first album to go directly to CD.
Yeah, we talked about that, and that's
Yeah.
another significant
So
point.
they're to CD. So CD was the new thing at that time. I don't even have a CD player at this time. I still had records and tapes. And then a couple of years later, CDs took over for record players, and they were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you're a record player. You must be a caveman." And now it's all coming back. So I'm not going to go crazy into the philosophy, but lyrics are influenced by Orwell's National Group Think. We talked
Hmm.
about that,
Yeah.
1984. Just quick group think definition.
Oh yeah. So just talking about George Orwell first, you got to read the novel 1984. That would but just before I do, that's interesting. Actually, that would make sense because so Neil was reading this.
Always, it's always popped. It pops up in the past three albums, I think, four albums maybe.
Oh. Well, okay, so that's interesting. And what groupthink now just to make sure, are you talking about Newspeak? Orwell?
It says group. I came up with group think, and I think we said that was the
So
people.
remember that was the social psych. I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole, but that was the social psychological phenomena.
Yeah,
So kind of like similar to Newspeak
yeah.
and just I'm just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go down. But so as we said in like the last episode on Newspeak, so Newspeak is a way that the Big Brother political machine controlled language
Hmm.
by and developed their own way of speaking, and
Hmm.
again, it's very controlled.
Yeah.
It's like the political language of the
Is group think the people's language?
well, groupthink is actually now that would be a psychological phenomena, kind of like newspeak. And what it does, what it is that and I think we said we were talking about this, but it occurs in groups of people. So there has to be groups, and which the desire for harmony,
Uh-huh.
okay, that's the goal, or conformity in the group,
Right.
ready, results in irrational or dysfunctional behavior decision making.
Wow.
So, for example, it would explain why people fall into peer pressure and do stupid, dumb like
That's
stuff.
a great example. Yeah. Okay. So we won't go down the rabbit hole on
No,
Orwell.
but I
Yeah.
can see that
Yeah.
definitely. And again, talk about this song once again, grounds, moving away from theoretical and like actually applying.
Right. Right. Social commentary.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. And then another book is interesting. Anthropologist Marvin Harris, Work on Territories. He was reading.
Hmm.
So we'll jump into Middletown Dreams before Mrs. Doubtfire shows her ugly face. Um, Middletown Dreams, kind of the opposite of big money.
Hmm.
You know? Suburban life, um, dissatisfaction with the comfort of the middle class life. They want people want to escape from their boring existence. Emptiness and material comfort, the dreamer seeking escape through imagination. Now, it's basically somebody who's working a 9 to 5, in my opinion, has a nice job, comes home to their nice house, has a nice wife, not a trophy wife.
No,
And
no, just right.
trophy wife would be big money. This is
Right.
a regular Middletown class, but that person wants bigger things in life and they're not going to ever achieve it. This is it. This is their life for the rest of their life. And that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But they kind of gave up on what their potential is. That's the what I think. Uh, you know, what do you think of that analogy?
Well, yeah, definitely the opposite of big money. And so that's always now that's always a recurring theme. Like I think before a little earlier ago, I said that the movie American Beauty, this is all about that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like you work you're so unfulfilled and talk about like you have a hunger for meaning.
yeah,
And so again, it's not a bad thing per se, but it's interesting how Neil's writing about this. And not to mention that, yeah, the song is portraying like ordinary people in an ordinary suburban town or ordinary
yeah.
town. and there's a dreaming of escape or a better life.
Right.
It's interesting, but they're, you would think that, they have
But
a house.
now they have it. Now they have that escape, the internet. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
applies more. Back in the day, it did. Or maybe the guy had, bowling on Tuesday nights. They'd have a man's bowling league or something. You know what I mean? Or he'd go to the bar with his buddies and have a couple
yeah,
beers.
yeah.
It was still that mundane lifestyle. But now you don't really have it because you have an internet. So the boring, the housewife could go on, and take sexy pictures of herself, post it on Facebook, and have fantasies there. So this applied in the 80s, but I don't think this applies now, right?
Um, you know what? It might, but I
Depends on
agree.
the age group. On the age group.
Yeah, well, I think right now in this country the middle class is obliterated, but um yeah, I think it definitely was I like what you just said there. It was a popular theme in like the 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
and a lot of I think it was Gen X. They were reacting to that. A
Yeah.
lot, like a lot of folks would wonder, you have everything. You have a house, nice place, Middletown, literally. Why
Yeah.
are you so unhappy?
Yeah.
And I have a personal theory that grunge was kind of addressing that in a
Yeah.
way. That I'm gonna make this word up, but unfulfilledness, you know?
You
Very interesting
had to
Rush
write
song.
the dictionary, by the way.
Dude, I'm always making up words. Yeah, I gotta start writing these. Called
Yeah.
Cambridge Dictionary. Yo, put these in put these in there. Um, but yeah, it's what again, I'm gonna keep saying this. Once again, it's a down-to-earth song, picking up on the themes of subdivisions, right?
Yeah.
Especially the video.
Like part,
It
but for a, I would say I'm gonna say more for a man. Like this sounds like a man's mentality.
yeah.
Not
A little connection. Pink Floyd's song, um, which was on Dark Side of the Moon, they hit upon all these themes because and I love what you said there from a man's perspective. One of the great lines in that song is, men are always, when they express themselves, but they're quiet with desperation.
oh, it's home. Is that home? Home,
Is
home.
oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and once again, it's like in a way, it's sort of like existential angst. That's the
yeah.
thing. It's kind of odd. It's like one of those things. Oh, and another connection to another song, Cat Stevens' Father and Son.
Oh, dude,
So
that's a great song. Oh my God,
yeah, yeah, and the only reason why I say that is because again,
love
the
it.
father has a good life. According to the song, gave the son a great life, good home, has everything, and father says to his son, what, just follow my path, man. Just marry a girl, get
Yeah,
a get a decent paying job. What's the matter with that? And the son says, like, I love the way Cat Stevens sings this, no, because I don't want to be like you. So I think that's again, Middletown Dreams it's a theme. And I love what you said. It was big in the 80s, 90s.
yeah.
Nowadays, not so much because, and I agree, the internet has provided that, needed distraction where
Right.
you don't have to dream of escaping. You can just like, you know, use the internet for whatever.
Just a spoiler alert on the Cat Stevens. So on the Led Zeppelin show, uh, first cut is the deepest Cat Stevens song that Sheryl Crow did.
Hmm.
John Paul Jones plays on that Cat Stevens track.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Legendary.
So music, synth heavy, guitar work, amazing. Uh, complex, complex time signatures. So
Yeah, well,
we'll move on. Oh God, not gonna go down the wormhole on this, but I'm just gonna throw out names: Abraham Maslow, Albert Camus, and Carl Jung.
oh yeah, well, pause on Albert Camus because
Oh,
uh
oh
dude,
no,
the absurd man, the
we
myth
gotta
of
get
Sisyphus.
off
Should
Zoom.
we go down this rabbit hole? The myth of Sisyphus. Think about it. Do you know what the myth of Sisyphus is?
I live it five
I,
days
no,
a
so no,
week.
so exactly. So if anything, Middletown Dreams, but you have so much going on because you express yourself through music. See,
Yeah,
I think I was trying to explain this to I forgot who it was. Like music is one of those things, like, first of all. it's magic. And it's one of those things where you can like release. It's like catharsis.
Yeah.
So Albert Camus, just really quick, like with the myth of Sisyphus, is the guy rolling up the boulder and it just keeps going down. Rolling up the boulder, it just keeps going down. So it's like one of those things where a middle class man, that's how it is. You're just making money, and then you go back making
Yeah.
money. But then it's like, wait, what? What is my exist? Like, why do I exist?
Oh, I
And,
know.
and I'll pause right there. I'm not even gonna go because I don't want to talk about the absurd.
You said a musician is a magician. Many years ago, I was really into the Order of the Golden Dawn.
Hmm.
I was posting a lot of stuff around it, and a guy reached out to me, and he's like, "Do you want to join? Do you want to open up a chapter in your town?" And I was like, no. And I'm like, "Why are you reaching out to me? I'm not a magician. I'm not into that, you know." He's like, "But you're a musician. It's the same thing."
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, wow,
I,
great
I,
philosophy, the Order of the Golden Dawn, amazing." But anyway, on that note, we get this.
I was gonna say, I didn't know if you heard me. I was like, should I open the can of worms with the absurd Albert Camus? No, no. Let's just keep going.
I roll that rock up that hill
I
every
was gonna say that's you,
day,
man. When
every
you enter the temple,
day.
man, it's a losing battle, brother.
You
And
roll
by
a
the way,
rock up.
no, and according to Albert Camus, the only way to escape is suicide. But don't listen to Albert Camus.
No. And when that rock's on the floor, somebody walks by and says, "Why is that rock on the floor?"
Ah, roll it all back again.
Don't get me
Freaking Shrek, man.
started. All right. Emotional detector.
This is I will say this is like not my favorite song, but dude, so psychological. Like I think
Yeah.
I love the way
Kind
they
of.
kind of
I got a lot of names there.
yeah.
God, I'm looking. All right. Doubtfire's far away, or is
No, we're
she?
so good. We're so
Okay.
good.
Okay. Catchy song should have been on the radio.
Yeah,
Again, three or four tracks. They should have 4 singles instead of just two.
I know.
Opening up your heart to loved ones. Uh, having a hard time to trust. Devotion may be hard to find. Emotional vulnerability. Any comment on that?
Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you, pretty straightforward. And I love how Rush like Rushifies things, emotional detector. Like
Yeah,
it's so clinical in the best way. Like this is so
yeah,
Neil.
yeah. I mean, I love the one, you know, how hard it is to trust because I've given up on trusting people, man. You really can't trust anyone, and we
I
know that.
know.
I've known this in
No,
my life,
you
between
know what's
between bands and
yeah.
male relationships. I don't I really don't trust anymore, and it's sad. It's a sad
I
thing.
I wonder, geez, what do you think? Is that part of growing up? It's one of those heartbreaking like things, right?
Either you're a trustworthy person or you're not. That's
But if you're trustworthy, you're gonna get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah. Nice
Sad.
guy finish last. So true.
That's true. Yeah.
That's one thing we know, in life, but we won't we won't go into that stuff.
No, no, no.
Music, odd meter, 7/8. So they're bringing back the odd meter, which is so cool. You really got to listen for it, though. They're
Yeah.
the geniuses of blending in odd meter, weaving in.
So good at that.
Do you hear 4/4? And then there's this weird thing. What was that? And it's only there for a bar, two
Yeah.
bars. No.
No, and that's so Rush. Like when you think about what makes Rush Rush,
Yeah.
that's one of the elements.
I mean, I was just watching a documentary I should send to on Bill Bruford, and they were saying that they just call it's a great documentary. It's called The Genius of Bill Bruford on YouTube, and
Hmm.
that he was the master of putting in an odd meter without you even knowing. You wouldn't even know,
All
you know.
right.
Band didn't even know. Uh, so Moody Synth, great guitar intro and solo, great lyrics, exploring emotional vulnerability, introspection on relationships. So again, it's about a relationship. What kind of relationship? It could be any kind. Your the relationship to your cat, the relationship to your band, your girlfriend, your friend, and there's always, with human beings, there's always that trust issue. Do I trust that guy? Do I trust that girl? Do I trust that person I work with? No. So, okay, I'm not gonna say and bring shit up about
Well,
philosophy. Maybe
well,
I
just
should cut out philosophy from now on. But
man, I don't know, man. We should have like a separate episode
I
on that.
don't
I mean, why you think like just yeah, no, very simple. Like, look at this. When we lift the covers from our feelings, we expose our insecure spots. Trust is just as rare as devotion. And I love that line. It's just as rare as devotion. Even devotion is might be a hard, sometimes. Um,
Voted and trust, aren't they? Are they? Are they the same thing?
no, they're in my opinion, they're
Voted,
different.
you're dedicated.
When you're dedicated, it's like yeah, it's dedication. So it's sort of like devotion is the love part. The trust is has to do with hope. Like
Hope.
you hope the person, right? Anyway, so
Yeah,
and I love what Neil says here, forgive us our cynical thoughts. So yeah, it's and I love the title of the song, Emotional Detector. It's
yeah.
trying to detect the emotions, you know?
Yeah, we could pick up on that a lot. Yeah.
Well, philosophy, I won't talk, but just mention the names.
No, but I'm saying like at the temple we could pick up on emotional detector.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
You know. Okay. What Neil was reading, our boy Nietzsche,
Yeah.
your boy Mr. Carl Jung,
Yep.
Psychological Theories on Emotional Awareness. That was the book.
Yep.
Again, collective, and unconscious, the collective unconscious. And here's one. I shouldn't even say the name. I might open up. This might be the episode.
Well, we have 6 minutes right now. So Mr. Doubtfire just crept in.
Schopenhauer, the idea of emotion and human nature.
Oh man, do we want to go there? Do we want to go there? That's interesting. Again, once again, like Neil, man. Now, I will say I like Schopenhauer. Like I love philosophy.
Yeah,
I like reading his ideas.
I,
I
I,
do
I'm
not.
learning.
No, he's great. And wait, so just for our audience, what was the work that he was inspired by?
The Schopenhauer one,
Yeah.
idea on emotion and human nature.
Yeah, that's so yeah, now I think we talked about the temple. He was a famous
Polish,
uh
right?
no, German, and he was a famous cynic.
Yeah,
And his ideas I definitely don't agree with. I
yeah,
don't I like what it's like one of those things like, I can respect him, but I don't agree.
yeah.
I but he does raise some thought-provoking stuff. And it's funny with the emotion, he's so cynical. He says that it impairs cognition.
Wow.
And also remember, he's also influenced by Nietzsche. Nietzsche, you cannot underestimate Nietzsche. Like I know I
Right.
don't agree with him, but
Yeah.
the way he talks, like it makes you think.
But this is
And
existentialism right here. So he would be in that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You know what's funny about Schopenhauer is he's strange. He's an existentialist, but also a metaphysician because
right,
he
right.
he was responding to Hegel.
Okay.
So again, these German schools, like these guys are geniuses. And
Heidegger in there.
no, no, Heidegger is a phenomenologist, and he was referring mostly to Husserl. And he was trying to now I would agree he all these schools are leading to
Yeah, yeah,
thinkers like Heidegger where
yeah,
they're metaphysicians, and Heidegger was obsessed with ontology, what is being, and his obsession with trying
yeah.
to figure out what does it mean to be versus to be in the world. And you
Okay.
know he came up with this concept called Dasein.
Right, right.
So
I've a little bit about
yeah, so that's another can of worms.
it.
But Schopenhauer, um, and also sadly Heidegger did get involved with the Nazi Party. So
He did.
a reference to the Manhattan Project, yeah.
Wow, crazy.
But separate his philosophy with Heidegger. Um, no, he is a great thinker, and he was obsessed with
Yeah,
ontology, and he thought that philosophy forgot about ontology, focused too much on, like metaphysics, for example, or um and he's once again one of these existentialists that use the school of thought called phenomenology
Hmm.
in
Wow.
order to describe what Daison is. And Daison is about, and again, it's like really deep stuff, but it's about the human being and its place in the world,
Right, that makes sense.
right?
That's
And,
a Rush song, on this
yeah,
album.
yeah. But what's really important is using phenomenology. So we're bracketing all sorts of stuff. We're just focusing on being with a capital B. So that's that. But Schopenhauer, just going back to this idea, and very different. Um, just he thought that human cognition is normally in the service of affective states of emotions and all that, and he classified them as movements of the will. So I can see that. I can see where Neil was coming from.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, all right. So how do we have?
2 minutes and 40 seconds.
So I'm not gonna get into. We got Mystic Rhythms and um after it. Oh no, I'm sorry. Mystic Rhythms and the cover.
Hmm.
So we won't cover that in 2 minutes, unfortunately.
So we'll pause right here and I guess like final thoughts or any like areas of focus. What do you think?
Um, I just think there's. I mean, this is not an '80s album. This is a philosophical genius, philosophy, history, musical genius
Yeah.
album. And people listen to it from that point of view. Please don't listen to Rush just because they're great musically. Listen to the lyrics and get the meaning. You don't have to get as deep as we are, but get the meaning out of what these guys are saying. Because if you don't break it down and listen to the lyrics, you're not going to get it. And the lyrics are just as important as that 7/8 time that they're playing in these
Mhm.
songs. It's equal. It's equal. Neil is a he is an equal lyricist as he is drummer. You know what I mean? He's just as good. He's the guy could have been
Yeah, he's
poet,
amazing.
a historian. He's everything. You're talking about a renaissance man. He is the guy. So, Power Windows is a lot more than just what those two Beavis and Butthead guys were talking about because they clueless, so they didn't even bring up lyrics in that.
No, they were so unfair. And the way they talked about the album is that they kind of like cast it off. And I think if
Yeah,
they're not Rush fans. And if they really were, and again, not to say that Rush did have some clunkers,
yeah, like every.
um, it's okay, but even their clunkers were excellent. Like, you
Oh yeah,
cannot, you know?
I mean, like I don't even think those guys listen to Power Windows. When you talk about Rush, you got to talk about the lyrics. You don't got to break them down like we are. But I'm always looking for Rush podcasts to get ideas, and there's really nobody getting this deep. There's a lot of good ones talking about the album, the production, the music. They might talk about Anne Rand a little bit, but nothing is what we're doing. And Neil's lyrics need to be preserved and known. People need to know what the guy was singing about.
Hmm.
It's not just mumbo jumbo. It's real, great, great, meaningful stuff. So we just broke down. All right. So the last song, if you hear screaming, my dad's watching the Met game in the other room.
Oh,
Go,
go Mets.
they got to win. Um, so the last tune is going to be Mystic Rhythms, the final track. And I know you really
Mhm.
like that one.
I'll be honest with you. It's quickly. I was listening to it 5 times on the way back
Oh
from
wow.
work. Because I was trying to, but I realized how great the song is. And
It's so
Getty,
different, you know?
so different.
Yeah.
And Getty's, I don't know if you would agree with me. Getty's vocals are once again, it's that warm sound, and he's
Yeah.
singing. You know, I hate when people criticize Getty's vocals because I feel like he's one of the greatest, most underrated rock singers of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to mention this song, he's like, I love when he says, Mystic River, and then you just hear like, the rhythm, and he's just singing his heart out. So it's
Yeah.
a great song.
And the bass line and the drums,
Oh,
oh, they're so sick.
I was gonna say, wait, comment. Well, I guess, do you want to start with the lyrics first, and then we'll jump into the music?
Yeah. 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 We'll
Yeah,
get into it. Okay. So Neil at this time, I think he went to Africa because he wrote a book about African rhythms, or he was
yeah,
really upset. African rhythms.
You know
So I'm
what's
not.
funny? You know what's funny? I have a slight obsession with a African rhythms. So that would be another wormhole that we can crawl under. But
Oh wow.
yeah, we're not going to do it. But I will say the only thing I will say is Paul Simon on
Oh,
Graceland was
amazing.
influenced by African rhythms. So I
Yeah.
could see why Neil Peart was like mind blown with that.
He Paul Simon did it in a genius way. He put it in a pop,
Absolute,
you know.
absolutely.
The Graceland is and that bass player is sick.
Oh,
I,
who is that bass player anyway? Like, do you know
I
his name?
but like you call me Al, that solo.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh my God. Yeah. So he was a genius for doing that. Yeah. And this might have been a thing in the 80s too, that people were dabbling with different types of rhythms. Uh I recommend the book. I don't know the name. I wish I knew the name of it. It's Neil's traveling through Africa on a 10-speed bike, like a motocross bike, not an
Right.
electric, you know.
Oh, so he kind of pulled an Ernest Hemingway because Hemingway would go to Africa to hunt like wild animals.
Yeah, I guess. And the book is like it's pretty crazy. Like there were some nights where he was sleeping in a cave or a tent, and couldn't get food. It was like insane.
Wow,
You
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I wonder if this is it could have been influenced by his trip. I don't know. I wish I knew that timeline. But basically Mystic Rhythms, it's about like tribes and culture and rhythm, African rhythm. And when I think of that, I think about how I remember studying African rhythms and how like in Africa, some of these tribes communicate by rhythm,
Yeah. Yep.
you know?
And the rhythm is not, and it's so funny because during one of my lessons, just to keep anonymity, we were talking about different music styles
Yeah.
and Hispanic music, like stuff like
Yeah.
there's a bunch of genres that was influenced by African rhythms,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
so simplistic. It kind of a lot of drum, like those a lot of like chanting, and it's sort of like music that like really communicates. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to
Afro
describe.
Afro-Cuban.
Yeah.
I studied a lot of Afro-Cuban from Rob, my brother-in-law, Rob Dominguez.
Oh, that's so cool.
So Rob turned me on to a lot of the Afro-Cuban guys, and there's one guy in particular named Israel Lopez. They call him
Mm.
bass player, and the Mambo Kings. He's the main guy.
Well, I was gonna say, so Cheech, what did you get out of that? Because as a
I,
musician,
I got out of the bass is so simple but powerful, like
yeah,
boom,
yeah,
boom, 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 boom,
yeah,
boom, 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 boom. It's the pulse of the mambo, the feel with
yeah,
all those
yeah,
percussions going.
yeah.
And I always had trouble in college because I had a book called it was like Afro-Cuban grooves for bass and drums. Now, when you're playing these grooves, they're son mono. I'm gonna gringo. Forgive me, son monturo. You
Yeah.
know, all these crazy rhythms, but you got to feel the clave rhythm. You got to.
Mm.
You can't tap one. You can't tap ACDC like 1, 2, 3,
Mm.
4. So that clave is always going on in the cowbell. That clink, 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 clink. Clink,
Right, right.
and I think Latin music is the most difficult music in the world to play.
No, and it's so funny how you said that because, and again, just to keep anonymity, but I was using the band Santana as
Oh,
an example.
oh yeah,
Santana does, I don't think he does get credit, but I don't think he gets enough credit with bringing that sound that you said is so difficult into the
yeah.
rock realm,
Well,
you
Black Magic
know?
Woman is a great example of
Yep,
a
yep,
like the boom, 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 boom. That bass line carries the song,
yep,
and it's all minor chords, I believe, which is crazy, which is like different. But that's not even his song though. But he reinvented it. I
yeah.
think a
And
Fleetwood,
remind me, was the original one Peter Green,
yeah, Fleetwood
right?
Mac.
It was like a blues, right? A
Yeah,
blues. Yeah,
yeah. We can get into the whole early Fleetwood Mac years when they
yeah, yeah,
were. Uh, so anyway, getting into that tribal thing, whether it's Afro-Cuban or just tribes in Africa that are communicating through their rhythms. Um, and he is saying that there's a emotional connection between people and it transcends you into another world
yep,
rhythm.
yep.
And it really does. The minute you hear a song, like it could be a funk song, you want to dance, you want to move,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
If it's a jazz song, you want to swing, you have that
Yep,
swing feel
yep,
to it. And it kind of makes you feel a certain way, a rhythm. It puts you in a mood, you know?
yep, yep.
You know,
And speaking to that, so without going too much detail, but
yeah.
in Latin American music, so you have genres like salsa,
Mhm.
merengue, bachata, and I was explaining to some students that Latin people go through lots of suffering, a lot of trauma and like Latin American history for
Oh, yeah.
all sorts
Sure.
of reasons. But when music was a sort of like an outlet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so rhythm was really important, and that came along with dance. Because like you said, like, dancing and rhythm go hand in hand.
Oh, you look like
So
like a Roomba or a tango.
Oh, a tango, right.
Yeah.
And tango especially. Tango, you can feel
Yeah.
all like sadness, pain,
Argentina, right? I believe it's.
Argentina. Yeah.
And I love how each Latin rhythm, I think Roomba is Cuban, I
Hmm.
believe. There's like salsa is Puerto Rican.
Yep. Yep.
Coming to New York, when the Puerto Ricans came to New York, they brought in the salsa,
Yeah.
So there's all like for every like part of like, the Spanish culture, South, like whether it's South America or Puerto Rico, there's a rhythm that goes with their culture. So
Exactly.
hey, it's
Exactly.
fucking cool,
And
like
that, no, it's so
Cuban.
cool.
Yeah. So I think, in the big picture, Mystic Rhythms is talking about that, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that all the rhythms around the world, from friggin' thrash metal to Afro-Cuban grooves,
Yeah.
and it can make you feel a certain way. It can move you. Uh, and like rhythm affects emotions, thoughts, and feelings.
Yeah. 100%. I always say music is the sort of like the voice of the soul. Like, because it's one of those things that it, out of the invisible comes music.
Yeah, and I do this
So,
a lot at sound checks. Before we go on, I'll either play like a funk tune. I did it the other night. I played a song by a band called the Meters, or a funk band. And I just went into it, and the drummer started to play, and a bunch of people were looking and bobbing their heads and like giving me the thumbs up. They knew the song. So automatically it, um like you affect somebody with an
mm,
instrument. I'll play Limelight, and then somebody will come up to me and be like, "Are you guys playing that tonight?" You know what I mean? I just like
right.
so I love playing that game with people, playing something on the bass and seeing the reaction of how it's like, it's almost like being a magician. Like I said earlier, you have a power. When you're a musician, you have some kind of power over people. You can make them move, you can make them think, you make them feel good, you mess with their emotions, you can make them sad, you can make them cry. There's some of these country songs that are who's this guy? Jelly Roll, have you heard of this guy?
I heard of him.
Songs are so friggin' depressing. My mother's always,
Well, it's funny.
but they're
Most of the
beautiful,
country music is depressing. Yeah, yeah,
but they're beautifully done,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
so the motion of rhythm and melody could really, get to you. So spiritual expression, you become one with the universe when you're in rhythm. I think what do you think of that, like kind of.
Oh, oh, 100%. And I think the lyrics also, like, if you read them, first of all, again, underrated Rush song in my opinion, and I don't think this. It's crazy because it starts out so strong with Power Windows and
Yeah,
concludes so beautifully because
yeah, yeah.
it's a great meditation on everything that you just said. And you know how those rhythms, it's like that feeling of, when you hear a rhythm, it's like you get carried away. And like you say,
Mhm.
you like to play around people because they hear a certain rhythm, you're like, oh, you're gonna play
Oh,
that tonight.
yeah, yeah.
It's is and I like how Neil describes it. It's like he does such a great job. It's such a poetic song, like with lines like mystic rhythms capture my thoughts and carry them away.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like it's touching your soul. Like
It's
these
eternal. It, it,
it
it's
definitely
right.
eternal.
You hear certain rhythms that just they bring you to a place, in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
mind, your what is it, your mind's eye or whatever. You
Yep,
can actually
yep,
see
yep.
see the rhythm in your head.
You know, a song that always does that for me, and just to keep with the Rush theme is this, and I think this is probably their greatest song of all time is Xanadu.
Oh yeah,
There's something about that song. Every time I listen to it, like I literally like forget where I am, and I usually like when I listen to music, I have like really good headphones, so I'll just listen. And man, like if people don't, it's a shame that people sometimes don't get it.
they
You
don't.
know,
They don't.
it's so sad, and that's why Neil with this song he just he describes it so beautifully. He says mystery is like when you get away from the get lost in these rhythms, mystic rhythms. He says they're like mysteries of the night, escape the light of day. So it's kind of like what I'm describing to you,
Yeah,
mystic rhythms under northern lights. So it's like looking at
yeah.
the northern lights. It's
Mhm.
such a beautiful poetic
Totally, total poetry.
genius.
Is
Like Pert is a philosopher and like a poet
and a writer and like a novelist.
and a novelist, right?
The greatest drummer in the world. Like all rolled up into one package. Like
He's probably one of the greatest human beings, like auteurs,
when
like a
when
Mozart.
oh yeah, I would honestly say in the rock world he is like a Mozart. You know,
He's one of them. Yeah, yeah,
he is definitely one of them.
yep,
He's that Renaissance man where he can do
yep,
everything.
yep, yep.
Another,
Exactly.
I mean, you could say that too about Bruce Dickinson from
Right,
Maiden, but
right,
in a different way because, like, yeah, he's the
right,
greatest vocalist and his
right,
lyrics are really good, but the guy flies a plane. You know,
right, right. Yeah,
he's
and,
a he writes books,
yep.
and he does like he'll go out and he'll do like spoken word. I'm trying to think of the philosopher. I can't think of the philosopher that he's really into. That he goes out and he does William Blake. He'll do a whole thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
He'll do a whole talk about William Blake. Like, and this guy's in a he's in a metal band, but he flies a friggin' plane. Like,
He's a Renaissance man, and I
yeah,
think someone similar to is Brian May from Queen,
yeah.
who on top was one of the greatest guitarists. He got his PhD in like rocket science or something, like in
Oh, did he?
astrophysics. Yeah,
Why?
and
Why?
originally he was a mathematician. He was going to go to college for he was in college for studying astrophysics, but then Queen happened. But
Well,
then he returned.
the same thing with Tom Schultz from Boston. The guy
Right, right,
guy was in MIT. I mean, I think
right,
he works at MIT
right.
and invented the Rockman, that amplifier. He invented that Boston sound through the Rockman. He created
Man, talk about a tour. Yeah, it's
that's a
Renaissance man.
he's a genius. There are so many out there that people don't think as geniuses, but they
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And Neil, like they might think, oh yeah, the guy's a great drummer and a great lyricist, the greatest rock drummer. No, 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 no. He's way more than that.
Oh,
He's
he's no,
deeper.
he is the greatest drummer, but man, this dude just transcends.
And that's the point of the show, so we could get the lyrics out there and the
Yeah,
philosophy and the writers, and hopefully not only the intellects like us and the nerds like us, but hopefully some kids who are,
we'll
you
pick
know,
up on this. Yeah,
which is cool. So, yeah. So basically, the music is very complex.
yeah.
Uh,
Very spacey.
very spacey.
Is it word or made up? But yeah, very kind of like you could tell we're going in like an astral plane or something.
Yeah, atmospheric. I have written down that
Yeah,
that
yep.
Brian,
I like that.
Eno,
Yep.
yeah, Brian Eno keeps coming up. Um, the odd meters when you listen to the solo part and you hear the bass and drums, it's insane how locked in. In the video, Getty looks a little funny. He has he's got the David Crockett thing going on.
Yo, dude, I
He
want to.
and that by him. He admitted that, that he
No,
put his hair
dude,
because
it's
he
gonna.
wore a ponytail for a while. He was
He
doing the
did.
ponytail,
Yeah. No, it's
which
funny. It's funny because I want like the video. Admittedly, is very cheesy. I'm not gonna lie, it's cheesy, but I
yeah.
don't know. There's something lovable about it. You know?
I mean, that's the time when videos were people were experimenting. Rush is all new to video, so they weren't going to do Thriller or they weren't going to do a Madonna video. They weren't selling their their sexy look to people. and they weren't gonna dance like Michael Jackson. So
Right, right,
and they weren't entertaining like Aerosmith, where Steven Tyler is gonna jump around and do all kinds
right, right.
of.
Or like the 1980s Van Halen videos from,
Oh well, you got
you know.
Roth just
He's just
probably
a nut. Like he's nuts.
he's like the greatest frontman. He might be
Yeah,
greatest next to Ozzy. I think David Lee Roth might be the greatest frontman of all time. I mean,
y-
just doing
um,
splits on stage, and
among them.
I mean, who comes out in assless pants at the US Festival in 1980?
Only David Lee Roth.
You got to be really confident to do that. You know?
But yeah, so Getty's hair is just whoa, like all types of whoa in that video.
Yeah, Alex got the short haircut.
Yo, he
He
looks like he looks like a dad now.
he looked.
I mean, it's funny, he was always a dad, but now he looks like a dad.
I know in that documentary, he was a dad at 17.
It's 17. Yeah.
I saw that a long time ago, and then
Yeah.
I forgot about it. So that's like imagine like being 17 and being a father. You're probably thinking, oh, where am I going to go in my life? I'm the Middletown uh, dreams guy. I'm going to be married to this chick. We're going to have a kid. And this guy went on to rock stardom. He didn't let that interfere or hold him back.
No, no, and I give him so
Not
much
that,
credit.
I get like not that that should never hold you back. You always got to be a dad first, number
Right.
one. But and he was.
Right, right. No, and I give him a lot of credit because he was always a good just based on the documentary and like the interviews, like, he loves his wife and children. Like he's a great dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. They
Great
all
dude.
all of
All
them
of them.
all of them
All of
are.
them.
And Kiss always made fun of them because when they would tour, they weren't the party guys. And like,
Right.
Gene Simmons would always be like, I want to try to get these guys laid, but they're in there like, playing Scrabble and
Oh, reading.
reading. But they all had wives and they
That's the
were,
thing. Yeah.
and I don't think they were the kind of guys that were going to go out and mess around with groupies. That wasn't their thing. They were just serious,
No, no.
smart guys.
They had great integrity.
You know what's interesting about Neil? He never smart. He never got married to his wife. God rest her soul, the one that passed away. All three of them. It's so sad are gone. His wife, his daughter, and Neil. But he never married her. They
That's
had
interesting.
that 7 year thing where you're legally married if you're together with somebody for 7 years. You ever hear?
Mm. I heard of that. Yeah.
So he never married her, and he had a daughter with her, Selena, I believe. And and when we get into vapor trails and stuff, that's the tragedy of all that stuff.
Mm.
So he was a smart guy at the time.
I mean, again, philosopher himself. I mean, he probably lives his philosophy, you
Maybe
know?
he was scared to like, I don't know if I could put the ring on. We'll just hang out for.
Well, in some cases, your free will goes out the window, so.
Oh, your free will's gone when you get married. It's fucking you don't have it anymore. Yeah, yes, dear. Can I help you, sir? Oh, let me get my wife. Well, what are we getting, honey? I'm living in the Middletown
Oh,
dreams.
I sometimes I've heard oh, she's the boss. I'm like, oh
That's what
gosh.
I want to go around the counter and just smack this shit. No, motherfucker, you're the fucking boss.
You're
You
the
know,
boss.
unless she's making a shit ton of money. All right,
Oh, all right. Listen, yeah, I'll bend over, you know.
but no, you know, I don't know. That's the old henpeck mentality. But so yeah, atmospheric guitars. We said great bass. Uh, and then this was interesting: a tribal connection to ancient tribal rhythms and human connection.
Hmm.
And you kind of hear it in the way, he has echo. I'm hearing it in my head. He has echo on like a lot of stuff on the wood blocks.
Yeah, yeah. Especially on this song.
Yeah. So
Like
they
it's so 80s, but in this song, it really, really works. And I
oh,
think I hear the echo. Yeah, I think it creates that again, that atmospheric
this might be one
vibe.
of the most atmospheric songs that they ever
Yeah,
did. You
yeah.
know, I'm trying to think like it's almost. I mean, they were inspired by U2, at the time. So
Well,
that
actually, you know what's funny? It sounds like a U2 song
I can hear Bono singing it. You know,
in a way, and it it's sort of yeah. I can see how that influence. And again, that's like the like U2 was so huge in the '80s, and they're gonna
yeah.
blow up with the Joshua Tree.
And this is
But
the same year,
oh,
right? Joshua Tree was 86, so
that's right. So it's coming out soon. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I'm trying to think like U2 was not ever progressive or anything, but they just
No,
were great songwriters, but that they had the best atmospheric
yeah,
guitar player ever, the Ed,
yeah, yeah,
you know. So I think that's all I got pretty much
yeah,
on Mystic Rhythms.
yeah.
Anything you want to add to it, or
No, just that it's a really great song. It's has become quickly my new favorite next to Power Windows. And they're both different.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
bookends because you start, with Power Windows, you start with that great 80s
You mean
propulsion.
big money, big
Big
money.
Money, sorry.
Yeah,
Big Money starts with that great power, propulsion, just in
yeah.
your face 80s. But then this one now has a different sound and it just closes the album in the most amazing Rush way ever.
And what's cool about like how and they're so different in their topics. One's about materialism, and
So
then
different. And then they transcend and talk about more of the,
yeah,
stuff that I guess would really matter, especially for Rush, like the mystic rhythms,
yeah,
the
yeah,
the primitive rhythms.
yeah. So cool. So that about wraps up. I mean, how are we on the Mrs. Doubtfire?
We're still good. So I guess we will move forward now with the great album cover, which I'll
Yep.
let you kind of explain a little bit because I know at the temple we were talking about it.
Oh wait, do I have? Oh, I have. Oh, wait, I have just one more thing. About the influences of the lyrics. Again, Carl Jung. Uh,
yeah, I can see that.
I'm not. We won't go down the rabbit hole, but the concept of the collective unconscious and the human experience.
Yeah, because that's where do these mystic rhythms come from? Like, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. That's his influence on that. Um, and definitely check. I wish I knew the name of his book through Africa because I think he might have did something on Hold Your Fire with the rhythms on one of the African rhythms that he learned because that's all he heard. He said in the book, everywhere you go in Africa, you hear these
Right.
rhythms. So I wonder what it might have. I gotta look that
Oh,
up.
oh, Cheech, it's called The Masked Rider,
Yeah.
Cycling in West Africa.
Yes. Yes. Does it give a year?
1996.
Oh, so it's much later. It's much later.
Well, it's about his month-long bicycle tour he took through Cameroon in 1988.
Okay. Okay. So that would have been after Hold Your
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
A great book, a great read. It's really funny when he's sleeping in a tent eating can of like soup. Like he could be in
Yes, such a Neil
a
thing.
L and he's like, you know. Okay, so the cover, I gotta say, I can't stop looking at this cover.
Yeah, it's funny, me too. Like I at first I thought it was cheesy and I was like, man, it's like I don't know if I feel how I feel about this album cover compared with, the rest of their iconic covers, but when I was looking at it, and it's crazy because I actually don't own a physical copy of it, but I have to say, yeah, there's something very mesmerizing about it.
It in its own, I guess for me, it intrigued me because it looked like my very first co-op that I lived in for some reason. I don't know why, but the wooden floor. You Sims, the detail that is in this picture from the window, like the paint chipping and everything. And it's not a picture, it's a painting. And I'm thinking like how much of a genius do you get to the detail
Detail.
of a
I
cracked
know.
window, like a baseball hit it. When a baseball would crack a window, it doesn't crack it all the way. There's that special kind of broken glass, and just from the paint chips to the weirdo Jeffrey Dahmer subdivisions guy sitting in the chair. I mean, we were talking.
Yo, you know that Dahmer dude is also in the video for Big Money?
Is he?
Yeah. He's like they show him like what you see his hair and like the remote.
Oh wait, the dude from
The sound cover,
oh,
Dahmer.
oh, this guy. The actual oh, as a cartoon,
No, 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 no. Watch the video. Watch. So this dude Dahmer, this Dahmer like character, like is in the video for big money.
as a person, as
Yeah,
a
you
real
see him
person.
like he's holding you see him like his hair and like the remote.
That's right. That's right. Because I haven't watched that
Yeah.
video in a long time.
Oh, and she's just to warn you. So 9 minutes and 42 seconds. So
Okay. Okay. So the painting is based on a guy. I was trying to find this guy. I couldn't find him. Demo Safari's photos. So you took influence from whoever this guy is. He's a photographer. Demo Safari.
right.
It's a blonde man, a Jeffrey Dahmer guy, shirtless, disoriented, trying to control his window with a remote control in solitude and in an empty room. Now, the influence is this guy we talked about, Marshall McLuhan, who's a
Yeah.
philosopher. He came up with the name Power Windows for
Right.
television set.
Well, and just quick before I forget, I had this like boom thought in my head. Today, that power window. So this is you said it was Marshall McLuhan?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll look into that. But today we have it for real in the cell phone or laptop. So
It's
just
crazy.
just gonna throw it out there. So it's now a reality. Like it's a joke in this album cover, but now people think they can control life through their cell phones or laptops.
Oh yeah, and and Rush is like doing it through television sets because through this guy's theory is the television set was like you're entering another world, and you get to control that world with a remote control. So you can go from channel 10, 11, 12, all the way up to whatever, And this guy must be so confused. He goes to his window with the remote control, thinking he can control the world.
Yeah.
That's what I find fascinating. Now, either he's fucked up on like angel dust, or he's just like out of his mind. You know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's so kind of eerie in a great way. Like I'm looking at it, the album cover.
Oh, dude,
It's
you'll pick up little things as simple as it
it,
is. It's
it,
almost like
it
way where it's a simplicity. It has three. I think I have it memorized. Three television sets on top of like old radios,
yeah, yeah.
and then the window I love. It's cracked halfway. It reminds me so much of my old apartment. That window, and a crack in it, like a baseball hit it. Paint is all chipped, and he's got that coffee Mac. You probably don't remember Max Headroom. I'm dating myself. He was this computer guy who had a show on MTV, and this is what he kind of looks like with his hair.
Mm.
And he's aiming the remote to control through the window, and the power window being the TV. So that's pretty.
And she just adds more meaning to this. So Hugh Symes originally did not add those TVs. It was Getty Lee's idea.
I thought it was Alex.
One of them. I think it was Lee though, based on what I saw. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But Syme, I have here, he was kind of annoyed at first, like, oh, so I have to add these TVs. But then looking back and talk about collaboration. So Duke Symes originally had no TVs, but then adding TVs just adds a great element. Like
Yeah,
there's something eerie about the album cover. And I love what you said there. He's disoriented and he thinks he can control probably the window outside, the
yeah,
moon. Oh, my power window remote. Maybe I can control everything, you know?
yeah. But you don't see the bodies in his refrigerator. You left that
No,
out.
I bet you like if this album could speak like afterwards, like he's probably staring at his like strangled victim or something.
Yeah, looking up. But it is
Yo,
cool that bands could have much say on their album, and
yeah,
say, no, we want
yeah,
our in there,
yeah,
and using guy McEwen's theory,
yeah.
and that's great, great theory. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So Chiefs, now we're at about 5 minutes. So I,
yeah,
I would I would love your input. So just to conclude, I think after assessing this album, it's really amazing. And I now, well, in my opinion, it's a shame that I ignored it. A lot of fans ignored it. A lot of fans left Rush after this, and they already started with Grace Under Pressure. Maybe no. Signals, they were still top.
Yeah,
But since you lived through this time, why do
yeah.
you think this album was the album that made a lot of former Rush fans leave?
Keyboards. They went over the top. Well, not for me. This is not. I mean, I love every song and I love every album that they did, but like from the documentary, like heavyweights like Mark Portnoy and the drummer from Rage Against the Machine, they're kind of dissing it, and it's like fucked up because it was the '80s and heavy keyboards and new production, lots of reverb. Going back to that snary reverb, like on Mystic Rhythms. You hear that reverb just like trickling out. So these are just new technology that they wanted to embrace, and you can't blame them. Who wants to go back to analog? You did that for 10 years now. There's a thing called digital. Geddy Lee was really starting to become a good keyboard player. He got into it. I know it annoyed Alex a little bit, you know, but I think it heavy keyboards and overproduced quality of the album, but
Right.
the songs weren't like old Rush. They weren't even like moving pictures. They were just so different. They sounded so different. The writing style and everything. Less guitar solos, not a trio like on All the World's a Stage. A brand new arsenal of things that they had under their belt. So I think it just turned people off. And the songs might not have been like Tom Sawyer or Limelight, but they're great songs. You have to
Mhm.
take them for what they are. Every song on this album is great. So and then leading up to Hold Your Fire, which is going to be the next one we're going to do, that became disappoint. That was a big disappointment for the
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
Peaked at number 12, and it was like really low in sales and
W-
went.
Wait, Chichi, if I had to come up with a theory, I think that a lot of fans, and at that point, I think the 80s was starting to, it's just my opinion, but the 80s sound was starting to run out of gas. So I think maybe fans got tired of that 80s sound
Oh
and
yeah.
didn't give the album a chance. Like you said, they were embracing these sounds. Like, and I had a theory, and I don't know if I'm right here, but so as a musician, like I think Alex got really mad because the guitar sounds, like those old great guitar sounds, have to kind of like take a seat back, and like synthesizers, they have to accommodate the
Mhm.
new sounds. So I think that maybe that's why he got really mad.
They,
Or not
only,
mad, but upset.
they weren't the only band to do it. Like Maiden did it on Somewhere in Time. You listen to Power Slave, and then you go back to Somewhere in Time, and you listen to that, the next album. It's very produced. They're using guitar synthesizers on it. And even Maiden took it. Seven Son of a Seven Son. They had keyboards on it, and people were like, "Maiden."
No, and you mentioned this album also used metronome, right? Like
Oh
a-
yes,
adding to like the clinical sound.
it's a
What those two, losers
on
said, but
not
I
much
I,
room.
I agree with them. I agree.
They're not the band they were on All the World's a Stage. They're breathing room. A click track does not give you breathing room. I'm not a fan of a click track. It's like my enemy. I never, whenever I would use a click track with my students, it would only be to play Bach, or Mozart, because that shit has to be perfect. But when you're playing rock or jazz, you got to have a feel or funk. You can't be
Mm.
perfect. It's my opinion. But some people swear by the click, you know. So,
Okay,
but
so Cheech, last minute, so last thoughts on the album. I will say it's now has become I now kind of I have how there's Grace Under Pressure. Now I include this as
yes,
peak amazing Rush.
yeah, it's a great album. If people don't didn't like it in the '80s, revisit it
Yeah.
and find you'll be surprised how great it is. For newer fans, listen to it, check it out, have an open mind. It's not Tom Sawyer moving pictures. It's in the '80s. It's Rush's new sound in the '80s. It's a brilliant album, and I love it. And I'm so glad we got to do it. Power Windows. and I saw the tour. It was remarkable. And I remember buying the album, the tape, the cassette. And being like, yeah, you know.
Oh, you actually got the cassette tape.
I had the cassette tape. Yeah.
That's amazing. We may have to explain it for our younger listeners that are
Yeah.